Welcome, brave souls, to another spine-tingling episode of my channel, where we delve into the darkest corners of the world to uncover tales that will make your skin crawl. Tonight, we journey through the shadows of 25 of the most haunted forests in America, each harboring secrets and spirits that refuse to rest. So, dim the lights, settle in, and prepare for a night of terror as we explore these cursed woods. The Pine Barrens of New Jersey stretch across more than 1 million acres of dense forest, a vast expanse of towering pines, twisted oaks, and murky bogs that have long been shrouded in mystery and folklore. This seemingly endless wilderness is home to countless tales of the strange and unexplained, but none are as infamous or as fearsome as the legend of the Jersey Devil. Stories of this creature have haunted the region for over 2 centuries, feeding the imaginations of locals, adventurers, and thrill-seekers alike. Its reputation is that of a terrifying, winged creature, said to resemble a humanoid with hooves, bat-like wings, and a piercing, unearthly scream that echoes through the forest at night. The earliest known accounts of the Jersey Devil date back to the early 1700s, when residents of the Pine Barrens whispered of a cursed child born into the Leeds family. According to legend, this child transformed into a monstrous creature shortly after birth and took flight into the wilderness, vowing terror on all who crossed its path. Over the years, the stories have grown and multiplied, with countless sightings reported across the region. Hunters, campers, and hikers have described a chilling mix of sounds and movements, a combination of guttural cries, rustling underbrush, and a sense of being watched, often followed by fleeting glimpses of something not quite human darting among the trees. Despite skepticism from the scientific community, believers argue that the Pine Barrens itself lends credibility to these encounters. The terrain is isolated and treacherous, with swamps that can swallow a person whole and dense thickets that make navigation nearly impossible. Fog often settles over the forest at dusk, obscuring vision and creating strange optical illusions. Even during the daytime, the twisted branches and shadowy undergrowth can play tricks on the eye, making familiar shapes appear monstrous. Yet, what makes the stories truly unnerving is that the Jersey Devil has been reported by people who know the forest well, experienced outdoorsmen who are intimately familiar with its sounds and rhythms. Their accounts often describe movements and presences that defy natural explanation. One of the most chilling encounters occurred in the heart of the Pine Barrens during the late summer. A group of campers had set up a small camp deep in the forest, far from any trails or roads. As night fell, the forest grew silent, save for the occasional rustle of leaves and the hoot of an owl. Around midnight, they began hearing footsteps circling their tents, soft at first, then heavier, deliberate, almost predatory. They called out, expecting perhaps another hiker lost in the woods, but there was no response. When one of the campers unzipped the tent to peer outside, the forest appeared empty, the moonlight casting long, twisted shadows across the clearing. The footsteps continued for several more minutes, moving as if circling the tent, before abruptly stopping. The air that had been heavy with tension seemed to shift, and an unnatural chill swept through the camp. No one saw the creature, yet every camper felt the presence of something watching, waiting, just beyond the tree line. On other occasions, witnesses have reported strange lights hovering above the treetops, sometimes glowing orbs that drift silently. Other times, sudden flashes that disappear when approached. Hunters claim that the Jersey Devil has a way of toying with its observers, appearing just long enough to instill fear and then vanishing as if swallowed by the forest itself. Some describe hearing a high-pitched, almost human-like scream carried on the wind, a sound that freezes the blood and leaves an echo in the mind long after the encounter. These reports are so consistent across decades that many locals swear by the creature's existence, often refusing to venture into certain parts of the forest after dark. The Pine Barrens is also peppered with abandoned structures and forgotten settlements, adding to the eerie atmosphere. Old homesteads, long since reclaimed by nature, sit silent and crumbling, their windows like hollow eyes watching over the forest. Tales of spectral figures and unexplained shadows have been reported in these ruins. with some suggesting that the restless spirits of early settlers are drawn to the same areas frequented by the Jersey Devil. Campers occasionally report hearing whispers in the wind, barely audible, yet unmistakably human in tone, as though the forest itself is alive with secrets too terrible to confront directly. Adding to the unease is the forest's unique ecosystem, which seems to thrive in the shadows. Swampy areas teem with unseen creatures, the croaking of frogs, and the splashing of fish, sometimes mistaken for something more sinister. Dense fog often rolls in without warning, muffling sound and reducing visibility to mere feet. In these conditions, even a normal animal can appear monstrous, yet the consistency of Jersey Devil sightings suggests that something more inexplicable may be at work. Local authorities often dismiss such claims, but park rangers and longtime residents know better. They speak in hushed tones about the nights when the wind carries unnatural sounds, about footprints that vanish without a trace, and about a feeling of dread that settles over the Pine Barrens like a living, breathing entity. Despite the fear it inspires, the Jersey Devil has become a symbol of the Pine Barrens, itself a reminder of the forest's untamed nature and the mysteries it holds. Tourists and thrill-seekers flock to the area during the summer months, hoping for a glimpse of the creature, or at least to feel the chilling atmosphere that has captured imaginations for generations. Paranormal investigators set up cameras and motion sensors, hoping to document proof of the creature, while skeptics argue that the Jersey Devil is merely folklore, a story passed down to keep children from wandering too deep into the forest. Yet, for those who have walked among the pines at night, who have felt unseen eyes tracking their every step, the legend is all too real. As dawn breaks over the forest, the eerie sounds fade, the shadows retreat, and the dense trees once again appear calm and ordinary. But the Pine Barrens never fully releases its secrets. Beneath the canopy of pines and across the misty swamps, the Jersey Devil waits its presence, lingering in the rustle of leaves, in the echoes of distant cries, and in the minds of those who dare to enter the forest after dark. For centuries, it has haunted the wilderness, an enduring reminder that some mysteries are best left undisturbed, and that the darkest corners of nature often conceal more than the eye can see. In the Pine Barrens, the legend is alive, whispered on the wind, and ever watchful, waiting for the next unwary soul to wander too far from the safety of the known world. The Freetown Fall River State Forest in Massachusetts spans over 5,000 acres of dense woods, abandoned roads, and secluded ponds, a vast wilderness that seems peaceful in daylight but transforms into something unsettling after dusk. By night, the forest takes on a darker personality, its shadows stretching long and twisted among the gnarled trees. Over the decades, it has developed a fearsome reputation, whispered about in local lore as a place where natural beauty and supernatural phenomena collide. Stories of strange occurrences, disappearances, and sinister rituals have passed through generations, making the forest a destination for thrill-seekers, ghost hunters, and those drawn to the eerie and unexplained. Much of the forest's notoriety comes from its association with occult activity. Locals speak of hidden clearings marked by strange symbols etched into the earth, small bonfires leaving circles of scorched soil, and offerings left in the underbrush. Hikers often report that the forest seems to resist intrusion. Trails that should be simple to follow twist unexpectedly, and familiar landmarks vanish or appear in the wrong place. Venturing off the beaten path can be unnerving, as sudden drops in temperature and chills that penetrate to the bone are commonly reported. Even in warm summer months, there are areas of the forest that carry a cold so unnatural it seems to defy explanation. Many visitors describe an almost constant feeling of being watched. There is an oppressive awareness, a sense that someone or something is observing from the shadows. Disembodied whispers often accompany this sensation, faint voices echoing through the trees, sometimes calling a person's name or repeating distorted phrases. Campers have recounted waking to find their tents subtly disturbed, gear rearranged. Hikers occasionally glimpse pale figures moving just beyond the tree line, only for them to vanish the moment they focus on them. leaving a lingering sense of unease. One of the forest's most haunting legends involves a young woman who vanished decades ago while hiking near a secluded pond. According to local accounts, she wandered off, perhaps drawn by curiosity or an unseen presence, and was never seen again. Despite extensive searches, no trace of her was ever found. Over time, sightings of a spectral woman in tattered clothing began to emerge. Witnesses describe her expression as sorrowful and fearful, appearing suddenly along fog-covered trails or near clearing edges before vanishing into the woods. Many believe her spirit still wanders the forest, searching for the life she lost, and that her presence reinforces the forest's dark aura. Paranormal phenomena in the forest are not limited to visual encounters. Electronic devices often malfunction, compasses spin erratically, and cameras sometimes capture anomalies inexplicable by natural causes. Investigators have reported sudden cold spots, thermographic readings of unidentified shapes, and shadowy figures that move independently of any living being. Hikers frequently hear footsteps behind them on otherwise quiet paths, only for the sounds to disappear when they turn around. The accumulation of these experiences contributes to an overwhelming sense of dread for those who venture into the forest, especially at night. Some of the most unnerving encounters happen to those who venture alone. A man once recounted hiking along a rarely used trail near the ruins of an old farm. As twilight fell, he felt an oppressive presence pressing in from all directions. The temperature plummeted, frost forming on nearby leaves. Despite the spring warmth, whispered voices, initially barely audible, grew louder, calling his name repeatedly. Panicked, he ran blindly through the underbrush until he reached the main trail. Convinced he had been followed by something otherworldly, similar accounts are common, often describing a suffocating, conscious presence that seems aware of every movement. The forest is also notorious for signs of ritualistic activity. Visitors frequently find symbols carved into trees or scratched into rocks, sometimes accompanied by small effigies or crude offerings left in remote areas. Whether these are the work of pranksters or practitioners of darker rites is uncertain, but their consistency and placement have reinforced the forest's reputation as a site where the ordinary intersects with the supernatural. Those who stumble upon these areas often report a deep, instinctual unease, as if the forest itself is cautioning them to leave. Despite its foreboding reputation, the Freetown Fall River State Forest continues to draw visitors seeking encounters with the unknown. Paranormal enthusiasts, urban explorers, and curious hikers enter its depths, hoping to see the spectral woman or witness some of the strange occurrences reported over decades. Many return with chilling stories, fleeting shadows, sudden chills, or the unnerving sensation of unseen eyes following their every step. While skeptics dismiss these reports as imagination or coincidence, the sheer number and consistency of the accounts suggest a force beyond normal explanation may be present. Even during daylight, the forest retains an air of unease. Thick canopies block sunlight, mist clings to the undergrowth, and shadows stretch long and distorted. Silence dominates the forest, broken only by distant bird calls or the occasional rustle of wildlife. Yet even these ordinary sounds feel tinged with something ominous, as though the forest itself is aware, alive, and waiting. Visitors quickly sense that the Freetown Fall River State Forest is more than a collection of trees and trails. It is a place of lingering spirits, dark history, and unsolved mysteries. For anyone who enters, it is both mesmerizing and terrifying, a reminder that even in the modern world, some places remain governed by darkness and secrets that refuse to be revealed. The Great Dismal Swamp stretches across more than 100,000 acres of dense wetlands, spanning the border between southeastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina. Its thick cypress and tupelo trees rise like dark sentinels from murky waters, and mist often clings to the surface, giving the swamp an otherworldly, almost spectral quality. For centuries, the swamp has been a place of mystery and dread, a landscape both feared and revered. Its history is steeped in tragedy, going back to the days of slavery, when runaway slaves sought refuge in its hidden depths. Those who entered the swamp often did so at great risk, but the safety it offered was sometimes the only chance for freedom. Over time, the stories of those who vanished within its vast expanse merged with tales of restless spirits, creating a legend that has endured for generations. The swamp's reputation for hauntings is closely tied to its dark past. Travelers and locals alike speak of strange figures glimpsed between the trees, pale shapes that vanish when approached, as if the swamp itself refuses to reveal their true form. Many believe these are the spirits of runaway slaves, eternally wandering the swamp in search of the freedom that was cruelly denied them in life. Some say these apparitions are sorrowful, their presence marked by a profound sadness, while others describe a more ominous energy, as if the swamp remembers the suffering it has witnessed and guards its secrets jealously. Hikers, hunters, and fishermen report sudden drops in temperature, a damp chill that seeps through clothing, and an oppressive sense of being watched even when the swamp appears empty. One of the most haunting tales comes from a local fisherman who vanished without a trace. His boat was later found drifting silently among the reeds, swaying gently in the water. Inside, there was no sign of him, only a single oar, its blade streaked with dried blood. The story spread quickly through nearby communities, becoming a cautionary tale about the dangers of the swamp after dark. Those who have ventured into the Great Dismal Swamp since recount similar experiences, hearing footsteps on wooden planks where no one walks, glimpsing fleeting shadows just beyond the mist, or hearing whispers that carry across the water yet cannot be traced to any living voice. Some report seeing lanterns bobbing along the edges of the swamp, lights that seem to move on their own, as though guiding or luring travelers deeper into the marsh. The swamp's geography contributes to its eerie reputation. Thick stands of trees create long, dark corridors where sunlight rarely penetrates, and the ground is often treacherous, a mixture of water, mud, and hidden roots. Trails that appear straightforward can loop back on themselves, making it easy for visitors to become disoriented. In addition, dense fog frequently settles over the waters, muffling sound and creating optical illusions that make familiar shapes appear sinister. Even those familiar with the swamp report that its appearance changes with the light, the season, or even seemingly at random, reinforcing the sense that it is a living, watchful entity. Encounters with the supernatural are common in both modern and historical accounts. Campers and overnight explorers describe waking to sounds of splashing or scraping in the darkness, only to find the swamp empty at dawn. Shadowy figures are often reported moving between the cypress knees or along the water's edge, their form unclear but undeniably human in silhouette. Some witnesses claim to hear voices calling out, crying for help, or speaking in languages unfamiliar to the modern ear. In certain areas, electronic devices malfunction or fail entirely, further adding to the swamp's reputation as a place where normal rules do not apply. The history of the swamp deepens the sense of unease. During the era of slavery, the swamp was both a refuge and a trap. Runaway slaves often risked everything to enter its treacherous interior, navigating its labyrinthian waterways to escape bondage. While some found freedom, many perished, succumbing to hunger, disease, or exhaustion. These tragic fates have fueled the belief that the swamp is haunted by those who never made it out, their spirits lingering in the shadowy depths, caught between life and death. Locals speak of places where the cries of the lost can still be heard on quiet nights, carried faintly on the wind, as if the swamp itself remembers every sorrowful story. Modern visitors sometimes encounter more subtle phenomena. Sudden gusts of cold air, the smell of smoke with no visible fire, or the sound of distant drums and chants are frequently reported by those who venture into the swamp at dusk. Some describe fleeting impressions of hands brushing their arms, or the sensation of being gently guided along paths they do not remember taking. Many of these experiences are fleeting, leaving only a lingering sense of unease, yet they are consistent across decades of testimony. Paranormal investigators have documented anomalies on cameras and recording devices, from unexplained lights to shadowy figures, supporting the belief that the swamp holds mysteries beyond ordinary understanding. Despite its dangers, The Great Dismal Swamp continues to attract those drawn to its secrets. Kayakers and canoeists navigate its dark waters, while hikers explore its trails, often in search of the haunting stories that have made it famous. Some hope to witness the spectral figures themselves, while others simply wish to feel the chill and wonder of a place where history and the supernatural intertwine so closely. The swamp's allure lies in its combination of beauty and menace, a reminder that even the most serene landscapes can hold untold horrors. Through centuries, the Great Dismal Swamp has maintained its reputation as a haunted and mysterious place. From the spirits of runaway slaves still wandering its hidden channels, to the chilling tales of those who vanish without a trace, the swamp remains a living monument to the tragedies and secrets of the past. For those who venture into its depths, it offers not just a glimpse into history, but an encounter with the unknown, a reminder that some places are forever haunted by the echoes of those who came before, and by the darkness that dwells in the shadows of nature. The Hoosier National Forest in southern Indiana covers more than 200,000 acres of rolling hills, dense hardwood forests, and winding rivers. By day, it is a place of serene beauty, a haven for hikers, campers, and nature enthusiasts. But as night falls, the forest seems to take on a different character, one that has inspired tales of the paranormal and the unexplained for decades. Locals speak of a presence that haunts the forest's back roads and secluded campsites, a presence that leaves both unease and fascination in its wake. Among the most persistent legends are those of a phantom hitchhiker and the mysterious markings that appear around campsites, stories that have become intertwined with the forest's identity. The legend of the phantom hitchhiker is well known to residents of the surrounding towns. Drivers traveling on the quiet, winding roads that thread through the forest often report seeing a solitary figure standing at the roadside, thumb extended, appearing to seek a ride. The figure is usually described as a young person, often dressed in outdated clothing, with an expression of sadness or desperation. Those who stop to offer help often find that when they turn their attention to speak with the hitchhiker, the figure vanishes without a trace. Some drivers recount that the car suddenly feels colder, or that the radio static becomes overwhelming, just as the apparition disappears. Others have claimed to see the hitchhiker reflected in the rearview mirror for a brief moment before turning to find the seat empty. The repeated nature of these reports has made the phantom hitchhiker a staple of local lore, a ghostly figure that seems tied to the forest itself. Beyond the roads, the forest is home to equally unsettling tales among campers. One widely circulated story involves a man who set up a solo campsite deep within the woods. He had spent the evening hiking and returned to his tent late, feeling unusually tired but otherwise safe. During the night, he awoke to a faint scratching sound outside. When he stepped out of the tent, he discovered strange symbols carved into the surrounding trees. The carvings were intricate and unfamiliar, forming patterns that seemed almost ritualistic in nature. The camper reported feeling an intense sense of being watched, an oppressive presence that seemed to fill the clearing. The next morning, he hurriedly packed his campsite, leaving the area behind, and never returned to that part of the forest. Other campers have reported similar experiences, often discovering carvings or markings that were not present when they set up camp, sometimes accompanied by inexplicable cold spots, whispers, or fleeting shadows between the trees. Many witnesses emphasize that the forest seems to respond to human presence in unusual ways. Trails that should be straightforward often twist and curve, leading travelers in circles or causing them to lose track of familiar landmarks. The shadows cast by the dense hardwoods appear to shift unnaturally, and mist often rises from the low-lying areas, creating illusions that confuse both sight and sound. Hikers have described hearing footsteps on the leaf-strewn forest floor behind them, only to find no one there, or glimpsing figures darting between trees that vanish when directly observed. Campers often report the sensation of eyes upon them, a feeling of being observed from multiple directions, even in areas that appear empty. These sensations contribute to a pervasive atmosphere of unease, reinforcing the forest's reputation as a place where the ordinary and the supernatural intersect. In addition to ghostly sightings, There are accounts of inexplicable phenomena that seem to defy natural explanation. Electronic devices sometimes malfunction or lose power entirely. Compasses behave erratically. Campers have reported hearing whispers carried across the trees, voices repeating phrases or names, and sometimes the faint sound of footsteps approaching their tents in the dead of night. Some explorers claim to feel sudden changes in temperature, the air growing cold or heavy in certain areas, often coinciding with the appearance of shadows or strange carvings. The Hoosier National Forest also has a history of tragedy and mystery that some believe contributes to its paranormal activity. Over the decades, numerous accidents, disappearances, and untimely deaths have been recorded within the forest boundaries. Local folklore suggests that the restless spirits of those who have perished linger in the forest, manifesting as fleeting shadows, ghostly figures, or unexplained sounds. The phantom hitchhiker is sometimes interpreted as one of these lost souls, eternally wandering the back roads in search of help. Similarly, the strange symbols that appear near campsites have been linked by some to rituals intended to communicate with or appease these restless spirits, though whether these are the work of humans or something more otherworldly remains a matter of speculation. For those who visit the forest, the experiences are often as varied as they are unsettling. Some come away with nothing more than a lingering sense of unease, while others report more direct encounters with shadowy figures, disembodied voices, or sudden, inexplicable phenomena. The consistency of these reports, particularly those involving the phantom hitchhiker and the ritualistic markings, has cemented the forest's status as a place of intrigue for both skeptics and believers alike. Paranormal enthusiasts regularly visit the forest in hopes of capturing evidence or witnessing the unexplained firsthand, adding new stories to the already long tradition of strange occurrences. Even in daylight, the Hoosier National Forest retains an air of mystery. Sunlight filters unevenly through the dense canopy, casting elongated shadows that shift with the movement of the trees and the wind. Mist frequently clings to the forest floor, adding an ethereal quality to the scenery and amplifying the sense that the forest is alive, watching, and full of secrets. Visitors quickly sense that there is more than just trees and wildlife. Hear that the forest holds memories and presences that refuse to remain hidden, and that those who enter may encounter something beyond explanation. The combination of natural beauty, isolation, and persistent legends makes the Hoosier National Forest a place both mesmerizing and terrifying. A reminder that even familiar landscapes can harbor mysteries that defy reason. The Hoosier National Forest in southern Indiana covers more than 200,000 acres of rolling hills, dense hardwood forests, and winding rivers. By day, it is a place of serene beauty, a haven for hikers, campers, and nature enthusiasts. But as night falls, the forest seems to take on a different character, one that has inspired tales of the paranormal and the unexplained for decades. Locals speak of a presence that haunts the forest's back roads and secluded campsites, a presence that leaves both unease and fascination in its wake. Among the most persistent legends are those of a phantom hitchhiker and the mysterious markings that appear around campsites, stories that have become intertwined with the forest's identity. The legend of the phantom hitchhiker is well known to residents of the surrounding towns. Drivers traveling on the quiet, winding roads that thread through the forest often report seeing a solitary figure standing at the roadside, thumb extended, appearing to seek a ride. The figure is usually described as a young person, often dressed in outdated clothing, with an expression of sadness or desperation. Those who stop to offer help often find that when they turn their attention to speak with the hitchhiker, the figure vanishes without a trace. Some drivers recount that the car suddenly feels colder, or that the radio static becomes overwhelming, just as the apparition disappears. Others have claimed to see the hitchhiker reflected in the rearview mirror for a brief moment before turning to find the seat empty. The repeated nature of these reports has made the phantom hitchhiker a staple of local lore, a ghostly figure that seems tied to the forest itself. Beyond the roads, the forest is home to equally unsettling tales among campers. One widely circulated story involves a man who set up a solo campsite deep within the woods. He had spent the evening hiking and returned to his tent late, feeling unusually tired, but otherwise safe. During the night, he awoke to a faint scratching sound outside. When he stepped out of the tent, he discovered strange symbols carved into the surrounding trees. The carvings were intricate and unfamiliar, forming patterns that seemed almost ritualistic in nature. The camper reported feeling an intense sense of being watched, an oppressive presence that seemed to fill the clearing. The next morning, he hurriedly packed his campsite, leaving the area behind, and never returned to that part of the forest. Other campers have reported similar experiences, often discovering carvings or markings that were not present when they set up camp, sometimes accompanied by inexplicable cold spots, whispers, or fleeting shadows between the trees. Many witnesses emphasize that the forest seems to respond to human presence in unusual ways. Trails that should be straightforward often twist and curve, leading travelers in circles or causing them to lose track of familiar landmarks. The shadows cast by the dense hardwoods appear to shift unnaturally, and mist often rises from the low-lying areas, creating illusions that confuse both sight and sound. Hikers have described hearing footsteps on the leaf-strewn forest floor behind them, only to find no one there, or glimpsing figures darting between trees that vanish when directly observed. Campers often report the sensation of eyes upon them, a feeling of being observed from multiple directions, even in areas that appear empty. These sensations contribute to a pervasive atmosphere of unease, reinforcing the forest's reputation as a place where the ordinary and the supernatural intersect. In addition to ghostly sightings, there are accounts of inexplicable phenomena that seem to defy natural explanation. Electronic devices sometimes malfunction or lose power entirely. Compasses behave erratically. Campers have reported hearing whispers carried across the trees, voices repeating phrases or names, and sometimes the faint sound of footsteps approaching their tents in the dead of night. Some explorers claim to feel sudden changes in temperature, the air growing cold or heavy in certain areas, often coinciding with the appearance of shadows or strange carvings. The Hoosier National Forest also has a history of tragedy and mystery that some believe contributes to its paranormal activity. Over the decades, numerous accidents, disappearances, and untimely deaths have been recorded within the forest boundaries. Local folklore suggests that the restless spirits of those who have perished linger in the forest, manifesting as fleeting shadows, ghostly figures, or unexplained sounds. The phantom hitchhiker is sometimes interpreted as one of these lost souls, eternally wandering the back roads in search of help, or perhaps replaying the moment of their own untimely demise. Similarly, the strange symbols that appear near campsites have been linked by some to rituals, intended to communicate with or appease these restless spirits, though whether these are the work of humans or something more otherworldly remains a matter of speculation. For those who visit the forest, the experiences are often as varied as they are unsettling. Some come away with nothing more than a lingering sense of unease, while others report more direct encounters with shadowy figures, disembodied voices, or sudden, inexplicable phenomena. The consistency of these reports, particularly those involving the phantom hitchhiker and the ritualistic markings, has cemented the forest's status as a place of intrigue for both skeptics and believers alike. Paranormal enthusiasts regularly visit the forest in hopes of capturing evidence or witnessing the unexplained firsthand, adding new stories to the already long tradition of strange occurrences. Even in daylight, the Hoosier National Forest retains an air of mystery. Sunlight filters unevenly through the dense canopy, casting elongated shadows that shift with the movement of the trees and the wind. Mist frequently clings to the forest floor, adding an ethereal quality to the scenery and amplifying the sense that the forest is alive, watching, and full of secrets. Visitors quickly sense that there is more than just trees and wildlife. Hear that the forest holds memories and presences that refuse to remain hidden, and that those who enter may encounter something beyond explanation. The combination of natural beauty, isolation, and persistent legends makes the Hoosier National Forest a place both mesmerizing and terrifying. A reminder that even familiar landscapes can harbor mysteries that defy reason. The Allegheny National Forest in northwestern Pennsylvania stretches across more than 500,000 acres of dense woods, winding rivers, and forgotten trails. It is a place of immense beauty, but also of unnerving mystery. Among the thick groves of oak, maple, and hemlock, strange tales have been passed down through generations. Travelers, campers, and locals alike speak of eerie encounters that defy explanation. And at the center of many of these legends is a phantom train that roars through the forest without ever being seen. The story of the ghostly locomotive is one that seems to be woven into the very soil of the Alleghenies. Long before the area became a national forest in 1923, the region was crisscrossed with logging railroads. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, trains carried lumber, coal, and oil across the rugged terrain, connecting small, isolated towns to the outside world. These lines, often built hastily and abandoned just as quickly, left behind rusting tracks, forgotten trestles, and the lingering echoes of an industrial past. It is said that not all of those echoes faded with time. Campers and hikers often speak of hearing the distant sound of a whistle in the dead of night, a long, mournful cry that carries through the trees. The air grows unnaturally still in those moments, and many who have heard it describe feeling a wave of dread wash over them, as though something unseen were pressing close. Some report the metallic screech of wheels grinding against rails, followed by the heavy rhythmic pounding of a steam engine drawing near. Yet, when they search for the source, they find nothing: no tracks, no train, not even a broken piece of rail. Just a forest, silent once more. One of the earliest recorded accounts comes from the 1930s, when a group of hunters set up camp near the Kinzua Creek. On a foggy night, as they sat by the fire, they swore they heard a train rumbling through the valley. The sound grew louder and louder, until the men stood to watch the engine pass. But nothing came. One man claimed the ground itself trembled, as though the weight of the locomotive were bearing down on invisible tracks. When the noise finally faded into the distance, the hunters were left staring into the mist, shaken and bewildered. Another unsettling encounter took place decades later, in the 1970s. At first, they thought it was part of some old tourist attraction, perhaps a steam train brought back for historical rides. But when they asked rangers about it the next morning, they were told that no trains had run through the area for years. The nearest tracks were miles away, and no engine could have carried sound so clearly across the reservoir. The ranger reportedly laughed it off, but the family never returned to camp there again. The most chilling story tied to the phantom train is one of tragedy. Locals whisper about a long-forgotten accident that occurred during the height of the logging boom. According to legend, a heavily loaded freight train lost control while descending a steep grade deep within the forest. The brakes failed, and the locomotive plunged into a ravine, killing everyone on board. No official record of the accident has been confirmed, but many believe that the souls of those lost workers are bound to the forest, their train doomed to repeat its final journey for eternity. Some even claim to see fleeting lights moving through the trees at night, as if lanterns were swinging from the sides of cars that no longer exist. Beyond the phantom train, the Allegheny National Forest holds other unsettling mysteries. Campers have reported ghostly voices whispering in the darkness, carrying words they cannot fully understand. Some hikers describe a strange feeling of being followed, only to turn and find no one behind them. There are even tales of spectral figures appearing along remote trails, vanishing the moment someone tries to approach. But it is the train that seems to linger in the minds of those who visit, as though its whistle cuts through the veil of time itself. Skeptics argue that the sounds could be explained by natural phenomena. The dense woods and rolling hills of the Alleghenies can distort noises, carrying them farther than expected. Perhaps a distant train outside the forest is amplified by echoes, creating the illusion of something close at hand. Others suggest that the whistles are caused by wind moving through the valleys, mimicking the sound of an engine. But those who have experienced it firsthand insist that the sound is too precise, too deliberate, to be mistaken. They describe it not as a vague noise, but as a clear, mechanical presence and echo of a world long gone. For those who believe, the phantom train is more than just a ghost story. It is a reminder of the forest's layered history, of the thousands of lives that once passed through its trees, carving out livelihoods in the harsh wilderness. The men who worked the logging lines lived and died by the rails, and perhaps some part of them never left. Their engines, once the lifeblood of the region, now return only as shadows, bound to endless journeys that never reach their destination. The Allegheny National Forest remains a place where the natural and the supernatural blend seamlessly. By day, it offers breathtaking beauty, sunlight streaming through the canopy, rivers glinting like liquid silver, trails winding into untouched wilderness. But when night falls and the mist creeps in from the valleys, the forest takes on an entirely different character. Whispers ride the wind, footsteps echo in the dark, and somewhere in the distance, a whistle calls out across the trees. It is a sound that freezes the blood, a mournful reminder that not everything within the forest belongs to the living. The Ocala National Forest in Florida is a place of staggering beauty, stretching across hundreds of thousands of acres filled with pine scrub, dense thickets, and shimmering springs. It is a land where nature seems untamed, where sunlight filters down through heavy canopies, and shadows cling to every corner. But behind the surface, beauty lies a reputation steeped in mystery and fear. Locals speak in hushed tones about the forest's unsettling energy, its history of disappearances, and its unnerving sense of watching eyes in the trees. Visitors often remark that while the forest appears calm and picturesque, something deeper and more sinister lingers there, a presence that defies explanation. For decades, the Ocala National Forest has been a place where people have entered and never returned. Hikers, campers, and wanderers vanish without a trace, their stories weaving into the growing legend of the woods. Search parties sent to locate the missing often come back empty-handed, baffled by the lack of tracks or signs of struggle. Authorities chalk the disappearances up to accidents, missteps, or even people choosing to walk away from their lives. Yet, for those who know the forest, the explanations feel thin, as if they are covering something far stranger and more terrifying. One of the most chilling stories, tied to the Ocala National Forest, centers on a hiker named Daniel, a man who had ventured into the woods for solitude and quiet exploration. He was known to be an experienced outdoorsman, someone who felt at home on rugged trails and knew how to read the land. When he set out one autumn morning, the air heavy with humidity and fog rolling across the forest floor, no one expected that it would be the last time he was ever seen. According to investigators, Daniel's car was found parked neatly at a trailhead, his belongings still inside. A ranger retracing his path discovered a set of fresh footprints leading off the marked trail and deeper into the wilderness. The prints were clear and distinct in the damp earth, as though someone had deliberately walked into the forest just hours earlier. The trail of prints was followed for nearly half a mile before they suddenly ended. The soil beyond was undisturbed, the ground smooth, as though Daniel had simply stepped off the face of the earth. Dogs brought in to track his scent circled in confusion, whimpering and refusing to move beyond the final footprint. Despite weeks of searching, Daniel was never found. Only the eerie trail of footprints remained, an unsettling reminder of how icily the forest swallows those who wander into its depths. But Daniel's case is far from the only one. Locals tell stories of hunters who vanish into the underbrush, of campers who leave their tents behind but are never seen again. Many whisper of strange lights that flicker in the distance at night, glowing orbs that dance just out of reach. Those who have witnessed them describe being overcome with a strange compulsion to follow, as though the lights are luring them deeper into the trees. Some say these lights are the spirits of those who have disappeared, forever wandering the forest and seeking company in their endless solitude. Others believe the lights are something older, something predatory, drawing the curious to their doom. Hikers have also reported the chilling sensation of being watched, their skin crawling as if unseen eyes track their every move. Some describe hearing footsteps behind them, slow and deliberate, only to turn and find nothing there. A few have even claimed to hear whispering voices in the wind, urging them off the trail or calling their names in the distance. One camper recounted being woken in the middle of the night by the sound of someone moving just outside his tent. When he dared to unzip the flap and peer out with his flashlight, the forest appeared empty. Yet when he returned home the next morning, he noticed strange symbols carved into the bark of nearby trees. Markings he had never seen before, surrounding his campsite like a circle. He never camped in Ocala again. Some attribute the hauntings to the land itself. Long before European settlers arrived, the area was home to Native American tribes, who held the forest as sacred but also dangerous. Stories of restless spirits and cursed grounds were whispered long before modern disappearances began. During the 20th century, parts of the forest became associated with crime, with rumors of murders, bodies buried in shallow graves, and secret rituals taking place under the cover of darkness. The combination of natural danger and dark human activity has given the Ocala National Forest a layered reputation of dread. Even today, those who wander too deep into the forest speak of how quickly the landscape shifts into something disorienting. Trails that seem familiar by daylight feel alien by night. The sound of insects and birds can fall into eerie silence without warning, leaving an oppressive quiet that presses on the ears. In that silence, some claim to hear faint crying, as though the forest itself remembers the voices of the lost. The Ocala National Forest remains a place where beauty and terror are entwined. It draws thousands each year for recreation and exploration, yet its darker side continues to claim a place in local lore. Whether it is the restless spirits of those who perished, the weight of history clinging to the soil, or something else entirely, the forest radiates an energy that is impossible to ignore. Every trail carries with it the possibility of a sudden encounter. Every shadow hides the chance of something waiting just beyond sight. And every footprint in the dirt is a reminder of how easily someone can vanish, leaving behind only silence and the endless, haunting trees. The Shawnee National Forest in southern Illinois stretches across hundreds of thousands of acres. A vast wilderness of towering cliffs, ancient rock formations, and thick woodlands that hold stories older than the land's settlers. It is a place of beauty and mystery, where sunlight filters through dense canopies during the day, and where shadows seem to move on their own at night. For centuries, it has been steeped in legends, many of which trace back to the Native American tribes who once lived on and revered the land. Among those tales is one that still haunts the region today. The story of a sacred tree, said to hold the power to bless or curse those who dare to interfere with it. According to local lore, the Shawnee people considered certain trees within the forest to be sacred guardians of the land. These trees were more than wood and leaves. They were living vessels of spirits, protectors of balance and harmony. Among them, one tree stood apart, an ancient oak with roots said to stretch as deep into the earth as its branches reached toward the heavens. To disturb this tree, whether by cutting it, burning it, or even carving into its bark, was to invite the wrath of the spirits who guarded it. Those who disrespected the tree were marked by misfortune, sometimes leading to madness, sometimes to death. It became known simply as the cursed tree of Shawnee. For generations, locals avoided it. Families told their children never to play near it, and even loggers with sharp axes left it standing, uneasy about the stories of men who had vanished after attempting to fell it. Yet, as time passed and outsiders came to explore the forest, the old warnings were often brushed aside. Some saw it as superstition, a relic of a past age. But the forest has a way of reminding people of its power. One such reminder came in the early 1900s, when a group of settlers, unfamiliar with the traditions of the Shawnee, set up camp near the sacred tree. They had been told by locals to avoid the area, but the massive oak provided convenient shade and a strong trunk against which to rest their supplies. That night, their campfire flickered strangely, as if the flames were fighting unseen winds. The settlers claimed they heard whispers in the darkness, low voices that seemed to circle the camp. By morning, one of the men was missing. His footprints led toward the tree and stopped abruptly at its base, as though he had been swallowed whole. Despite frantic searching, he was never seen again. The group left in fear, abandoning much of their equipment. Later travelers who stumbled across the site reported seeing odd symbols carved into nearby trees, markings they swore hadn't been there before. Decades later, the curse struck again. In the 1970s, a group of teenage hikers dared each other to test a legend. They found what they believed to be the sacred tree, its bark weathered and scarred with age, its branches sprawling wide. One of them, emboldened by the others, took out a pocket knife and carved his initials into the trunk. The forest grew eerily still in that moment. The sounds of birds and insects cutting off, as if the woods themselves were holding their breath. The group laughed nervously and hurried away. But the boy who carved the tree began complaining of headaches and strange dreams. Within weeks, he had grown withdrawn, plagued by visions of dark figures standing in his room at night. His health deteriorated rapidly, and though doctors could find no cause, his body wasted away. He died before his 18th birthday. The other teens, shaken and convinced of the curse, never returned to the forest. Even today, visitors to Shawnee National Forest report unsettling experiences near the supposed site of the sacred tree. Some hikers have spoken of sudden chills, of hearing footsteps behind them, only to find no one there. Others claim to see faint, glowing shapes in the distance, figures that vanish when approached. A few insist they've heard voices, whispering warnings or calling their names. Many turn back, unwilling to go further. There are also those who insist the curse is not just legend, but evidence of a deeper truth that the land itself remembers. Native traditions held that spirits lived within the forest, guardians bound to the ancient stones, rivers, and trees. To disturb them was to break a bond, to disrespect forces far older and stronger than humankind. The cursed tree, whether real or imagined, became the symbol of this warning. It is a reminder that some places are meant to be left untouched, that not every path in the forest is meant to be walked. What makes the story endure is not just the eerie encounters, but the way the forest seems to guard its secrets. The Shawnee National Forest is vast, and its dense undergrowth and winding trails can disorient even the most experienced hiker. It's not uncommon for people to lose their way, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. And when they are found, many speak of strange lights, phantom voices, or the unsettling feeling that something was guiding them more, hunting them. The connection between these disappearances and the legends of the cursed tree only deepens the fear. The Shawnee believed the spirits of the land were both protectors and punishers, watching over those who respected nature and punishing those who did not. The forest has held on to that reputation, a place where beauty and danger coexist, where shadows hold memories of the past. Whether one believes in curses or not, those who walk its trails often sense that they are not alone. And perhaps that is the point. Not all stories are meant to be solved. Some are meant to warn, to keep us humble in the face of forces beyond our understanding. In the end, the Shawnee National Forest remains, as it has always been, mysterious and deeply haunted by the weight of its legends. And somewhere within its depths, the sacred tree still stands, silent and watchful, waiting for the next soul who dares to forget the warnings of the past. Those who seek it out may find more than just an ancient oak. They may find themselves face to face with the restless spirits of the land, spirits that do not forgive. The Tongass National Forest in Alaska stretches across nearly 17 million acres of rugged wilderness, the largest national forest in the United States. Its towering Sitka spruces, mist-shrouded mountains, and labyrinth of waterways create an otherworldly landscape, both breathtaking and foreboding. This immense wilderness is filled with stories that blur the line between myth and reality, where ancient legends persist, and whispers of strange encounters echo through generations. Among the most chilling tales is that of the Kushtaka, a shape-shifting creature said to haunt the dense woods and icy waters of the Tongass, luring unsuspecting souls to their doom. The Kushtaka, which translates roughly to Land Otterman, is a figure deeply rooted in Tlingit and Tsimshian lore. Described as a creature able to shift between human and otter form, it is said to possess supernatural abilities, particularly the power to mimic human voices. According to legend, the Kushtaka preys on the vulnerable travelers lost in the forest, fishermen alone on the river, or children who wander too far from home. Those who encounter it rarely return, and when they do, they are forever changed. One of the most unsettling aspects of the Kushtaka is its ability to imitate the cries of loved ones in distress. A hunter alone in the Tongass might hear the desperate voice of his wife or child calling for help. Driven by instinct and love, he follows the sound deeper into the forest, only to find nothing waiting but darkness and the faint sound of mocking laughter. Some who claim to have escaped speak of catching glimpses of the creature, its form flickering between man and beast, eyes glowing like embers in the mist. The stories of vanishing fishermen are especially common along the waterways of the Tonga. One tale tells of two brothers who set out to fish the coastal inlets on a calm summer morning. Hours later, their boat was discovered, drifting aimlessly, their gear still inside, but the men were gone. The only clue was a set of wet footprints leading from the boat to the edge of the forest, disappearing into the undergrowth. Locals whispered that the Kushtaka had claimed them, luring them from the safety of their boat with voices that sounded achingly familiar. Neither brother was ever found. Campers and hikers, too, have reported encounters with the uncanny. A group of college students exploring the forest once claimed they heard the cries of a child late at night, echoing through the trees. Believing a young hiker was lost, they grabbed their flashlights and set out to help. As they ventured deeper, the cries grew louder, more insistent, until they were nearly upon the source. But when their lights cut through the darkness, they saw only a fleeting figure, maw hunched and covered in fur darting behind the trees. The sound of crying turned into a guttural, mocking laugh that chilled them to their bones. Terrified, they fled back to their campsite and left at first light, refusing to spend another night in the Tongass. Some versions of the legend claim the Kushtaka does more than simply kill. In certain stories, it transforms its victims into one of its own, trapping their souls forever in a half-human, half-otter state. This belief may explain why some people disappear without a trace, while others return strangely altered, distant, emotionless, their memories fragmented. Villagers have long feared that those who vanish into the Tongass may not truly be gone, but instead condemned to walk the forest as Kushtaka themselves. Yet the creature is not always portrayed as purely malevolent. In some traditions, the Kushtaka is seen as a trickster, sometimes even saving lost travelers by guiding them back to safety, though often at a great cost. It is this ambiguity, predator or protector, killer or savior, that makes the legend so unsettling. The Kushtaka embodies the wilderness itself, vast, mysterious, and impossible to tame. Even modern reports keep the legend alive. Hunters still speak of strange encounters, footprints that appear and vanish in fresh snow, voices that call from nowhere, and fleeting shapes glimpsed between the trees. Fishermen still leave offerings of tobacco or food near riverbanks, hoping to appease whatever lurks beneath the waters. The Tongass remains a place where the old stories are never far from mind, where the line between folklore and lived experience grows thin. The forest itself lends weight to these tales, with its endless rain, heavy fog, and the cries of unseen animals echoing through the trees. The Tongass feels like a place untouched by time. Its isolation allows the imagination to run wild, and its vastness swallows the unprepared without mercy. Every year, hikers and hunters go missing in Alaska's wilderness, and while most vanish due to the dangers of nature, the unexplained disappearances fuel belief in something far darker. The Kushtaka remains a terrifying reminder of what lies hidden in the shadows of the forest. Whether viewed as a cautionary tale to keep people safe or a real entity stalking the wilds, its legend endures because it speaks to primal fears: the fear of losing one's way, the fear of the unknown, the fear of being deceived by something that wears a human face but is anything but human. To this day, few locals will venture deep into the Tongass alone, especially after nightfall. They know the stories, passed down from their ancestors, whispered over campfires, and carried on the wind through the trees. They know that when a voice calls to you from the darkness, it might not be a friend or family member in need. It might be the Kushtaka, waiting with patient cunning to lure you away, to claim you as one more soul, lost forever in the endless, haunted depths of the Tongass National Forest. The Mount Hood National Forest in Oregon is a place of immense beauty, with its towering evergreens, pristine rivers, and snow-capped views of the mountain itself rising above the landscape like a sentinel. By day, it is a haven for hikers, campers, and those who seek solace in the natural world. But as the sun dips behind the jagged ridges, the forest takes on an entirely different presence, one that has unsettled visitors for generations. Beyond the winding trails and hidden valleys lie stories of strange lights, vanishing hikers, and an eerie silence that makes even the bravest souls feel as though they are being watched. The tales of unexplained disappearances in Mount Hood National Forest are some of the most chilling accounts tied to America's wilderness. Families have reported loved ones who wandered into the forest for a simple day hike, only to vanish without a trace. Search teams scoured the terrain, combing through dense brush and treacherous cliffs. Yet the forest seemed to swallow these people whole. The few clues that were found in abandoned backpack, a shoe wedged between roots, or a flashlight with drained batteries only deepened the mystery. These disappearances often had no logical explanation, and some locals whisper that the mountain itself claims those who ventured too far. Among the most unnerving phenomena associated with Mount Hood are the strange lights that seem to appear and vanish without reason. Hikers have reported seeing glowing orbs in the distance, suspended between the trees or floating just above the ground. These lights are not like the glow of a campfire or lantern, nor do they resemble flashlights carried by other hikers. Instead, they pulse and shift, leading those who follow them deeper into the woods. One witness described seeing a bright blue light flickering in the distance, just beyond a grove of fir trees. As he moved closer, the light retreated further, as though beckoning him onward. But when he finally reached a spot where it had glowed so vividly, he found nothing, only dense forest and silence that pressed against him like a weight. Another account came from a group of campers who awoke in the dead of night to see a cluster of lights circling the perimeter of their campsite. The lights hovered low to the ground, weaving between the trunks as though they had intelligence, almost like they were observing the campers. Terrified, the group stayed inside their tents until dawn. But by morning there was no sign that anything had been there at all. No footprints, no evidence of lanterns or other hikers, just the unsettling knowledge that something had been watching them. The strange lights aren't the only source of fear within Mount Hood National Forest. There are countless stories of hikers hearing voices in the distance, voices that seem to call their names or cry for help. These sounds echo faintly through the trees, luring people away from the trail. Many who hear them describe a sudden compulsion to follow, as though the forest itself is pulling them deeper into its heart. Those who resist often speak of an overwhelming dread, as though something unseen was angry they didn't obey. One particularly chilling tale tells of a seasoned outdoorsman who set out for a solo hike in the forest. He was well prepared, with supplies, a compass, and years of experience in the wilderness. Yet he never returned. When searchers retraced his planned route, they found his campsite abandoned. His tent was intact, food still inside his pack, and his compass lying neatly on a log. The only thing missing was him. Days later, rescuers stumbled upon a set of footprints leading away from the site. They followed them until they abruptly stopped in the middle of a clearing, as if the man had simply vanished into thin air. Legends swirl around these disappearances, many attributing them to supernatural forces tied to the mountain itself. Some say the spirits of those who have perished in the wilderness still roam the woods, their ghostly presence luring the living into the same fate. Others whisper of beings not of this world, strange entities that use the lights as a trap, leading unsuspecting hikers into their grasp. In Native American traditions, Mount Hood has long been considered sacred, a place of immense spiritual power. Elders warned against wandering too far, believing that spirits dwelled in the mountains and forests, watching over the land and punishing those who disrespected it. Even modern-day paranormal investigators have been drawn to the Mount Hood National Forest, hoping to capture evidence of the lights or record the disembodied voices that so many have reported. Some claim to have filmed faint glowing orbs drifting through the trees, while others insist they captured whispers on audio devices. whispers that spoke their names in tones too chilling to dismiss. Yet, despite all the accounts, no definitive explanation has ever been found. Scientists argue that the lights might be caused by natural gases or reflections of distant headlights. But those who've seen them up close disagree, insisting that what they encountered was something alive, something aware. The disappearances, too, are often dismissed as accidents, victims of rough terrain, weather, or simple human error. But the sheer number of stories, combined with the bizarre circumstances of many vanishings, has kept the legends alive. The Mount Hood National Forest remains a place of both breathtaking beauty and haunting mystery. By day, its trails offer wonder and adventure. But when night falls, the forest takes on a far darker character. The lights appear, voices drift between the trees, and travelers feel the weight of unseen eyes upon them. Those who enter do so at their own risk, for not all who wander beneath the towering evergreens return. And those who do often leave with stories they cannot explain, stories of a forest that holds its secrets close and whispers them only in the dark. The Mark Twain National Forest in Missouri is a place of breathtaking beauty, stretching across rolling hills, deep woodlands, winding rivers, and rugged landscapes. Named in honor of the legendary author whose words captured the spirit of the Mississippi River and rural America. The forest is a place where nature and folklore seem to blend seamlessly. But beneath its peaceful veneer lies a shadowy side, whispered about in hushed tones by locals and adventurers alike. Among the many tales passed down through generations, one of the most chilling is that of the ghostly woman in white, who appears by the river and lures travelers into the unknown. The story begins along the forest's riverbanks, where the cool water reflects the moonlight, and the air carries the sounds of rustling leaves and croaking frogs. Campers, hikers, and hunters who spend their nights in the area often report feeling as if they are not alone. The sensation grows strongest near certain bends in the river, where shadows gather thick, and the mist clings to the surface like a veil. It is here, they say, that the woman in white reveals herself. Witnesses describe her as ethereal, dressed in a flowing gown that gleams pale in the moonlight. Some say she looks sorrowful, with hollow eyes that glisten as if holding back tears. Others claim she appears radiant and beautiful, drawing the living toward the river's edge. Those who follow her describe the sensation as being entranced, as if their will no longer belongs to them. One of the most well-known encounters took place decades ago, when a group of campers set up their tents along the river in the Mark Twain National Forest. It was late at night when one of them, a young man, noticed a figure standing across the water. She was motionless, her white gown rippling in the breeze, her arm extended in a silent invitation. The man, curious and compelled, left the safety of the firelight and walked toward the river. His friends shouted for him to stop, but he seemed deaf to their warnings. He waded into the water, eyes fixed on the mysterious woman. As he reached the center of the river, she vanished before his eyes. He stumbled, nearly slipping beneath the current, before his friends managed to drag him back to shore. Shaken and trembling, he later said it was as though something inside his head was urging him forward, whispering that he had to reach her, no matter the cost. He admitted that if his friends hadn't stopped him, he believed he would have drowned. Another story tells of a lone fisherman who encountered the woman on a foggy morning. He saw her standing just downstream, her dress brushing the water as she looked back at him. She smiled faintly and gestured for him to follow. Believing she might be lost or in trouble, he began making his way along the bank toward her. But with each step he took, she seemed to remain just out of reach. The mist grew thicker. The forest around him grew silent, and soon he realized he was completely disoriented. The woman disappeared into the fog, and he found himself standing at the edge of a steep drop-off he hadn't noticed before. If he had taken one more step, he would have plummeted into the river below. He staggered back, shaken by the near miss, and hurried out of the forest. To this day, he refuses to fish near that part of the river, convinced that something supernatural was at work that morning. Locals have their theories about who the woman might be. Some say she was a settler who drowned in the river long ago. Her spirit cursed to wander the banks, seeking company in her eternal loneliness. Others believe she is tied to Native American legends, perhaps a water spirit or guardian who lures the unwary to their deaths. A darker version of the tale claims she is no ghost at all, but a malevolent entity, a trickster spirit that feeds on human souls by drawing them into the river's depths. Regardless of her origin, the legend persists, fueled by fresh encounters reported every few years. Even modern hikers and campers, armed with flashlights and GPS devices, have claimed to see her. One man recounted waking in the middle of the night to the sound of soft singing outside his tent. When he peered out, he saw a woman in white standing by the river, her back to him. She turned slowly, lifting her hand to beckon. Terrified, he zipped his tent shut and stayed awake until dawn. When he emerged in the daylight, there were no footprints in the dirt by the river, though he swore he had seen her only hours before. The Mark Twain National Forest holds many secrets, and its vast size ensures that parts of it remain untamed and mysterious. For every trail that leads to a scenic overlook or a quiet campsite, there are countless hidden places where stories like the woman in white continue to thrive. Whether she is a restless spirit, a trickster, or something beyond human understanding, those who have seen her never forget the encounter. Perhaps that is why so many tread carefully along the forest's rivers at night, avoiding the foggy bends and shunning the temptation to follow voices or figures that appear where none should be. For in the Mark Twain National Forest, beauty and danger walk hand in hand, and sometimes a gentle beckoning from the water's edge may be the last thing you ever see. The Ozark National Forest in Arkansas is a place of immense natural beauty, with rolling mountains, dense woodlands, and streams that seem untouched by time. Yet, behind its wild charm lies an air of mystery. Locals and travelers alike whisper stories of strange encounters and legends that refuse to die, who once lived deep in the forest and whose spirit is believed to still linger, protecting the land from those who dare intrude too far. The legend begins in the early 1800s, when settlers were first pushing deeper into the rugged terrain of northern Arkansas. The wilderness of the Ozarks was both inviting and intimidating. It was during this time that people began telling of a strange man who appeared in the forest. He was described as tall, ragged, and silent, with long hair and a beard that gave him a wild, almost otherworldly appearance. No one knew his real name, but he came to be known simply as the Hermit of the Ozarks. According to old accounts, the hermit lived in isolation, making his home in a crude cabin hidden miles from any settlement. Unlike most settlers who sought community, he shunned contact with others, venturing into nearby towns only rarely to trade pelts or gather supplies. When he did appear, his presence unsettled people. His dark eyes seemed to watch with suspicion, and his silence only added to the unease. Children were told to stay indoors if the hermit came near, and even grown men admitted to feeling a chill in his presence. As time passed, rumors grew. Some said the hermit had once been a soldier, broken by war, and unable to live among people again. Others believed he had committed a terrible crime and was hiding from justice. There were those who claimed he had dealings with spirits, that the forest itself had claimed him as its own and given him power. Strange occurrences began to circle around his legend. Hunters reported hearing footsteps pacing outside their camps at night, only to find no one there in the morning. Travelers claimed to see a shadowy figure watching them from the trees, disappearing whenever approached. On moonlit nights, some swore they saw the hermit walking along riverbanks, his white shirt glowing eerily as he vanished into the mist. The story took a darker turn when misfortune began to follow those who sought to disturb the hermit's solitude. One tale tells of a group of young men who, thinking it a game, tried to find his hidden cabin. They never succeeded, but afterward, each of them suffered accidents or illness that left them scarred, some physically, others mentally. In time, the hermit disappeared entirely. Some say he died alone in the wilderness, his body consumed by the forest. Others believe he never truly died, that he became one with the Ozarks, his spirit guarding the land. This belief is reinforced by modern-day stories of hikers and campers who encounter inexplicable phenomena deep in the woods. Many describe a feeling of being watched, even when no one else is around. Hikers report sudden drops in temperature, as though an unseen presence passed by. Some have seen a flicker of movement, a tall, shadowy figure slipping between the trees, and, when they follow, they find nothing but silence and stillness. A few tell of hearing whispers carried on the wind, urging them to turn back, to leave the forest undisturbed. One particularly chilling account comes from a camper who ventured far into the forest alone. He awoke in the middle of the night to the sound of footsteps circling his tent. Believing it to be an animal, he unzipped the flap and looked out, only to see a tall, gaunt figure standing just beyond the firelight. The man wore ragged clothing and had long hair, his face pale in the glow of the dying flames. When the camper called out, the figure raised a hand as if in warning, then faded into the darkness without a sound. The camper packed up at dawn and left the forest, never to return. Before they could finish, a sudden storm rolled in out of nowhere. Thunder crashed overhead, and one hiker claimed to see the faint outline of a man standing beneath the tree, glaring at them. Terrified, they fled, and by the time they reached the trailhead, the storm had vanished as quickly as it appeared. Local folklore now holds that the Hermit's spirit remains as a guardian of the Ozark National Forest. He is not seen as purely malevolent, but as a protector of the land. Those who respect the forest and treat it with care often feel only a sense of awe and wonder. But those who trespass carelessly, who destroy or desecrate, risk the hermit's wrath. Even today, visitors to the Ozark National Forest speak of the uneasy balance between beauty and fear that lingers in the air. The forest is undeniably enchanting, but it also holds secret shadows and whispers that belong to a time long past. Whether the hermit was a broken man, a fugitive, or something more, his presence seems etched into the wilderness itself. As night falls and the wind moves through the trees, some say you can still hear him, footsteps pacing the dark trails, a figure watching from the edge of the firelight, a warning carried in the hush of the forest. But his spirit endures, a reminder that some places are never truly empty, that the forest remembers, and it does not forget those who dare to cross it. The Pisgah National Forest in North Carolina is a place of remarkable beauty. Yet beneath its rolling hills and dense woodlands lies a mystery that has baffled locals. This forest, tucked away in the Blue Ridge Mountains, is renowned for its waterfalls, wild trails, and endless greenery. But for many, the greatest attraction isn't the forest's natural wonders, but the unexplained phenomenon that dances across the skies at night, the infamous Brown Mountain lights. For as long as anyone can remember, strange glowing orbs have been seen hovering in the dark over the ridges of Brown Mountain, which lies within the Pisgah's boundaries. These mysterious lights, sometimes faint and flickering, other times bold and luminous, appear without warning. Witnesses describe them as hovering spheres of light, floating silently above the ground, darting between trees, or rising into the night sky before vanishing without a trace. Some appear white, others red or orange, and still others seem to pulse, almost as though they are alive. The origins of the Brown Mountain lights are steeped in legend. According to Cherokee lore, the lights are the spirits of women searching for their fallen warriors. After a great battle fought centuries ago, they wander endlessly, their glowing forms guiding them through the dark forest as they seek loved ones who never returned. In other versions, the lights are seen as the souls of the restless dead, still tied to the land. Later, settlers and frontiersmen told their own tales, claiming the lights were the lanterns of ghostly figures, mournful widows, wandering hunters. One chilling account comes from the early 1900s, when a man named Jacob Lawson, a traveling merchant, vanished along a trail near Brown Mountain. Locals searching for him reported seeing a single glowing orb hovering in the forest at night. They followed it, believing it might lead them to Lawson, but the light vanished suddenly, leaving them lost in the dense woods. His body was never found, and to this day, some say Lawson's spirit joins the lights, forever wandering the mountain that claimed him. For campers and hikers in the Pisgah National Forest, the experience of encountering the Brown Mountain lights is unforgettable. Many tell of sitting quietly near a campsite, only to notice a faint glow flickering in the distance, like a lantern being carried through the trees. The glow grows brighter, closer, yet when they call out, there is no reply. Instead, the light drifts silently into the night, vanishing in an instant. Others describe seeing multiple orbs at once, hovering above the treetops, bobbing up and down in a strange rhythm, as though beckoning those who watch to follow. One particularly unsettling tale involves a group of friends who camped near Wiseman's View, one of the most popular overlooks, to observe the phenomenon. They were skeptical, convinced the lights were nothing more than headlights from distant roads. But late that night, as they sat around their fire, 3 glowing spheres appeared just beyond the tree line. Unlike the distant orbs others reported, these were close, so close they illuminated the trunks of the pines in an eerie glow. The friends froze, too terrified to move. The orbs lingered for several minutes, pulsating and shifting in size, before suddenly darting upward into the sky and vanishing. The group packed their gear and left before sunrise, swearing they would never return. Scientists have attempted to explain the brown mountain lights for decades. Some suggest natural gases rising from the ground ignite and create brief flashes. Others blame atmospheric reflections of car headlights or trains. Those sightings of the lights predate both automobiles and railroads in the region. Electrical discharges, ball lightning, and even swamp gases have all been considered. But none of these theories account for the light's persistence, strange movements, or the way they appear to respond to observers. Even with scientific interest, the mystery has never been solved, which only adds to the forest's eerie atmosphere. Locals sometimes whisper that the lights are warning signals from the spirit world, that something lurks in the woods, unseen but always watching. Some hikers who chase the lights have reportedly become disoriented, wandering deep into the forest and requiring rescue. A few, like Lawson, have disappeared completely, their fates tied forever to the mountain's legends. The Pisgah National Forest itself amplifies the mystery. Its vast expanse of dense forest, winding trails, and remote ridges creates an environment where sound and light behave strangely. The silence at night is thick, broken only by the rustle of wind or the distant call of an owl. In that quiet, the sudden appearance of glowing orbs becomes all the more haunting. Travelers describe an unshakable sense of being watched, as if the forest itself holds secrets that it is unwilling to reveal. Perhaps the most unnerving accounts are those in which people claim the lights seemed to follow them. One hiker reported seeing a dim orb while walking back to his car late at night. At first he thought it was someone with a flashlight, but as he moved, the light mirrored his steps, always keeping its distance. When he stopped, it stopped. When he quickened his pace, the light darted forward, as if keeping time with him. Panicked, he broke into a run, only to find the light vanish the moment he left the tree line and reached the safety of the parking lot. To this day, the Brown Mountain Lights remain one of America's most enduring supernatural mysteries, a phenomenon that resists explanation, no matter how many theories are proposed. Visitors to Pisgah National Forest often come seeking them, hoping to glimpse the orbs for themselves. Some leave disappointed, seeing nothing but stars in the vast mountain sky. Others leave forever changed, swearing that the lights they saw were not of this world, were the spirits of the lost, echoes of ancient battles, or something far stranger. The glowing orbs of Pisgah National Forest continue to haunt the imaginations of all who encounter them. They are a reminder that not all of nature's mysteries can be explained, and that in the quiet darkness of the forest, the line between the living and the otherworldly grows very thin. The Redwood National and State Parks in Northern California are celebrated for their towering ancient trees. Some of the tallest living organisms on Earth, these giants, stretching hundreds of feet into the sky, create a cathedral-like canopy that allows little light to filter through, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant animal call. For centuries, people have revered these forests as sacred, believing that such immense trees must hold secrets older than human memory. Yet, alongside their natural wonder, the redwoods carry stories of the supernatural tales whispered by campers, hikers, and locals who claim the woods are far from silent when the sun goes down. One of the most chilling stories comes from a group of campers. who ventured deep into the park for a weekend getaway. They had chosen a clearing not far from a narrow trail, surrounded by thick groves of redwoods. As night fell, they marveled at how dark the forest became, the branches above weaving together so tightly that even the moonlight struggled to break through. The atmosphere was serene yet unsettling, a silence so complete that the crackling of their fire seemed almost intrusive. They laughed it off at first, reminding themselves that this was the wilderness far removed from the comfort of city life. That first night, as the group settled into their tents, they began to hear faint noises in the distance. At first it sounded like whispers, soft, low, almost indistinguishable from the wind. But the air was still, and the trees loomed motionless against the sky. The voices seemed to drift closer, like a conversation just out of reach. One camper unzipped his tent and peered into the darkness, expecting to see other late-night hikers. But there was no one, only the black expanse of the forest floor and the pale suggestion of tree trunks fading into shadow. They dismissed it as their imagination, perhaps an effect of fatigue after a long hike, and eventually drifted into uneasy sleep. By morning, something was wrong. The campsite looked disturbed. Even the camp chairs had been moved. A lantern lay on its side in the dirt, and a trail of footprints circled the fire pit. They were human-like, but oddly uneven, as if whoever left them had been dragging their feet. The group exchanged nervous glances, each insisting they hadn't gotten up during the night. They reasoned that perhaps another camper had stumbled into their sight by mistake. Still, a sense of unease clung to them as they went about their day. The second night was worse. The whispers returned, but this time they were louder, clearer. They weren't words exactly, but a chorus of voices, murmuring in tones that seemed to overlap one another. The sound circled the camp, shifting from one side to the other, as though unseen figures were moving just beyond the glow of the fire. One camper, desperate to prove it was nothing supernatural, grabbed a flashlight and swept it across the trees. For an instant, he thought he saw movement, a shadow darting behind a trunk, but when he ran closer, there was nothing there. No animal, no person, just the endless, silent forest. Sleep was nearly impossible that night, with each rustle of leaves and snap of twigs sending their nerves on edge. When dawn finally arrived, the group was relieved, but their relief turned to dread when they discovered the state of their camp. The firewood they had gathered was gone, their food cooler had been overturned, and deep grooves had been clawed into the dirt around their tents. Most disturbing of all, the footprints were back, circling tightly around where they had slept, as if something had been pacing just outside while they lay inside, powerless to act. By the third night, fear outweighed curiosity. They decided to cut their trip short the following morning, but with nightfall came one final encounter. The whispers returned, louder and more insistent, growing so strong that the campers swore they could feel the vibrations in their chest. The air grew colder, their breaths visible even near the fire. Then, without warning, the forest erupted into a cacophony of sounds, branches snapping, the thud of footsteps running in every direction, and whispers rising into frantic voices that seemed to surround them on all sides. The campers huddled together, flashlights swinging wildly, but nothing appeared. The noise lasted only a few minutes before fading back into silence, leaving behind only the sound of their own panicked breathing. When morning came, they packed in silence, eager to escape. Yet before leaving, one camper noticed something etched into the dirt near the edge of their sight. They looked deliberate, almost ritualistic. No one dared to touch them, and the group left quickly, each too afraid to speak of what they had seen. They never returned to the redwoods, though they shared their story with others, warning them that the forest holds mysteries best left undisturbed. Locals who hear this tale often nod knowingly, or even Native Americans who once held the forest as sacred ground. Some claim the redwoods themselves are alive in a way beyond biology, their immense age and presence giving rise to something sentient, a collective consciousness that watches and reacts when people trespass too deeply. Whatever the explanation, the legend of the whispering forest endures, reinforced each time another camper swears they heard voices in the night or returned to find their camp disturbed by unseen hands. The Redwood National and State Parks remain a place of awe and wonder, their beauty unmatched. But beneath the towering canopy and serene landscapes lies an older truth, a sense that the forest is not empty, but inhabited by something just beyond human understanding. And those who venture into its heart at night may discover that they are not as alone as they think. The Hocking Hills State Forest in Ohio is a place of striking natural beauty, where rugged cliffs, deep gorges, and cascading waterfalls create a landscape that seems almost otherworldly. By day, the forest draws hikers, climbers, and nature enthusiasts who come to marvel at Old Man's Cave, Ash Cave, and other scenic wonders. But as the sun sinks behind the trees and shadows lengthen, the forest takes on an altogether different character, one steeped in mystery and haunted by stories that have persisted for generations. Among the most enduring and chilling of these tales is that of the woman who wandered into the Hocking Hills woods and never returned. Her spirit said to haunt the trails to this day. The legend begins decades ago, when the forest was far less traveled, and the wilderness extended uninterrupted for miles. According to local accounts, a young woman was hiking alone along one of the more secluded trails. She was known to be adventurous, often exploring the hills and hollows in search of hidden waterfalls or the perfect vantage point to watch the sunrise. On that fateful day, she ventured farther than usual, disappearing into the dense woods as the sun dipped below the horizon. Her friends and family searched tirelessly, combing the forest with lanterns and calling her name into the night, but she was never found. Over time, hikers and campers began reporting strange occurrences along the trail where she was last seen. Many described the sensation of being watched, an almost tangible awareness that they were not alone. Some claimed to hear soft footsteps following them through the underbrush, even when the path behind them was empty. Others reported fleeting glimpses of a figure, a woman in white, pale and indistinct, standing silently among the trees or moving gracefully along the rocky ridges. The sightings were always accompanied by a sudden drop in temperature, a chill that seemed to seep into the bones, even on warm summer evenings. One of the most unnerving encounters involved a pair of friends who had set out for an overnight hike near Cantwell Cliffs. As night fell, they noticed a faint glow along the trail ahead, as if a lantern were swinging gently in the dark. Thinking it was another hiker, they called out a greeting, but received no response. When they approached, the glow disappeared, and they found themselves alone once again. Later, they discovered small impressions in the soft earth footprints that appeared human, but seemed impossibly small and delicate. The friends left the forest that night, shaken, and swore never to return after dark. Stories of auditory phenomena are equally unsettling. Campers frequently report hearing whispers carried on the wind, voices speaking in soft, sorrowful tones that seem to call their names. Some say they hear laughter that starts faintly in the distance and grows closer, only to vanish abruptly when they try to pinpoint its source. Others describe the sound of crying echoing through narrow gorges and cliff faces, as though the trees themselves are mourning. These experiences are often accompanied by strange, fleeting shadows at the edge of vision movements that vanish the moment they are fully observed. Locals offer several interpretations of these phenomena. Some believe the woman's spirit remains tethered to the forest, endlessly searching for a way out, or perhaps for the life that was taken from her. Others suggest that the forest itself is sentient, a living entity that reacts to those who enter its depths, projecting visions and sounds to protect its more secluded areas. Another theory holds that her disappearance and the subsequent hauntings are tied to the rugged terrain. The cliffs, caves, and dense foliage create natural illusions, causing travelers' minds to play tricks on them. Regardless of the explanation, the accounts are consistent and persistent, reinforcing the forest's reputation as a place where the line between the natural and the supernatural is thin. Some encounters are more physical. A camper once awoke to find his tent zipper partially open, despite having secured it before sleep. Outside, he heard the soft crunch of footsteps circling the tent, though the ground was otherwise undisturbed. Another hiker reported seeing the pale figure of a woman standing atop a cliff at dusk. He approached cautiously, hoping for an explanation, but she simply raised a hand, pointing toward the forest, and vanished into thin air. These encounters often leave witnesses with a lasting sense of unease, a feeling that they have glimpsed something beyond human comprehension. Even daytime hikers have reported eerie experiences. Some describe sudden chills when passing certain spots along the trail, or the sensation of an invisible presence walking beside them. Others notice small, inexplicable disturbances, leaves rustling in an otherwise still forest, or a path that seems to shift slightly, leading them off course despite their familiarity with the terrain. For those who pay attention, the Hocking Hills State Forest is a place alive with subtle signs, whispers of the past that hint at lingering spirits. The story of the woman who vanished has become a cautionary tale for those exploring the forest. Guides and locals often warn visitors to stick to well-trodden trails, especially after dark, and to respect the quiet spaces that seem to attract the supernatural. The legend has been passed down through generations, growing with each retelling, yet always returning to the same eerie details. A young woman, alone, disappearing into the dense woods, leaving behind an air of mystery that has never been solved. Despite its unsettling history, the Hocking Hills State Forest continues to draw visitors, enchanted by its natural beauty and intrigued by the stories of spirits that dwell within. Those who tread its trails may catch a glimpse of a pale figure among the trees, hear faint whispers carried on the wind, or feel the chilling sensation of being observed. The forest rewards respect and caution, but punishes curiosity that crosses the line, reminding all who enter that even the most picturesque wilderness can hide shadows older than the hills themselves. For those who wander the Hocking Hills at night, the legend of the lost woman serves as a reminder that some disappearances are never explained, and some spirits never rest. The forest holds its secrets tightly, offering glimpses to those who look carefully, but keeping the truth just out of reach. In this place of rugged cliffs, dense foliage, and hidden paths, beauty and fear exist side by side, and the ghostly figure of the woman who wandered too far remains, haunting the trails for all who dare to explore. The Adirondack Mountains of New York stretch across more than 6 million acres, a vast wilderness of rugged peaks, dense forests, and secluded lakes. By day, the region is a haven for hikers, hunters, and nature enthusiasts drawn to its breathtaking scenery and quiet solitude. But as the sun dips behind the mountains and the forest grows dark and still, the Adirondacks take on a more mysterious character. Over the years, countless tales have emerged of strange occurrences, unexplained phenomena, and encounters with entities that defy explanation. Among these, one of the most enduring and chilling stories involves a hunter who found himself being watched by a large, shadowy figure at the edge of the forest, an encounter that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The hunter, a lifelong outdoorsman, had spent decades navigating the Adirondacks, and he knew the forests better than most. He was an early riser, often venturing out before dawn to track deer or to fish in the remote streams that wind through the mountains. On one crisp autumn morning, he set out along a familiar trail near a ridge that overlooked a dense stretch of pine and maple. The forest was quiet, the mist lingering low over the ground, giving the surroundings an ethereal quality. Birds had not yet started their morning songs, and the only sounds were the crunch of his boots on the leaf-strewn path and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. As he approached a clearing, he noticed a movement along the tree line. At first he thought it might be another hunter or perhaps a deer, but when he stopped to look more closely, he saw it, a large, dark figure standing just beyond the edge of the trees. It was massive, easily taller than any man, and its outline was vaguely humanoid but distorted, as if the forest itself had shaped it. The figure did not move, yet it seemed to radiate awareness, its presence pressing into the air like a living weight. The hunter's heart pounded, but he trusted his instincts and his years of experience. He tried to approach, moving slowly and cautiously, hoping to get a better look. Yet, as he took a few steps forward, the figure remained perfectly still, almost watching him. Then, with a sudden and eerie silence, it vanished. One moment it was there, the next, nothing but empty tree line and the faint rustle of leaves in the wind. There was no sound of movement, no trace on the ground, nothing to suggest it had stepped away. Shaken, but curious, the hunter retraced his steps, trying to determine if he had somehow misperceived a shadow or a cluster of trees. Yet deep down, he knew what he had seen. Over the following weeks, he returned to the same area, hoping for a glimpse of the figure again. Occasionally, he caught glimpses of something shadows moving against the trees. The sensation of being watched, but the entity never reappeared in full, leaving only a lingering feeling of unease. Locals have long told stories of mysterious entities in the Adirondacks. Some speak of massive, bear-like creatures with glowing eyes, while others tell of spirits of the forest, guardians of the wilderness, that appear to those who enter certain remote areas. The hunter's experience fits within these tales, though he was a man who trusted his own eyes above any legend. Still, he could not deny the uncanny quality of what he saw, and the memory haunted him long after he left the forest. That autumn, other hikers and hunters in the Adirondacks have reported similar encounters. Some speak of large, shadowy figures that vanish when approached. Others describe hearing footsteps or low growls in the underbrush, only to find the area empty when they investigate. A few have recounted seeing glowing orbs or lights darting between trees in the dead of night, accompanied by an unshakable sense that something intelligent was observing them. These accounts often share common elements: sudden appearances, large and imposing forms, and a presence that feels sentient rather than animal. The Adirondack wilderness itself seems to amplify these encounters. Its dense forests, uneven terrain, and remote lakes create a setting where perception can be deceived, and shadows take on a life of their own. Mist hangs in the valleys, changing shapes and creating illusions, while the sounds of wildlife, deer moving through underbrush, owls calling, or distant waterfalls, blend in ways that can fool even experienced outdoorsmen. Yet, even when natural explanations are considered, many maintain that what they experience is more than misperception. It is something unknown, something that the forest has held on to for centuries. The hunter's story has become one of the Adirondacks' modern legends, shared among guides, hikers, and local residents. His encounter serves as a cautionary tale for those who venture deep into the wilderness alone, reminding them that the forest can be more than a collection of trees and wildlife. There are forces in the Adirondacks, people say, that remain unseen, watching from the edges, observing those who dared to venture too far from the familiar trails. Even today, visitors to the Adirondack Mountains report experiences that echo the hunter's encounter: shadows at the tree line, fleeting movements just beyond vision, and that unmistakable feeling of being observed. These are warnings etched into the lore of the forest. Whether the figure is a cryptid, a spirit, or something beyond human comprehension, its presence underscores a truth about the Adirondacks. The wilderness is alive, in ways both wondrous and terrifying, and those who enter must tread with respect and caution. The Adirondack Mountains remain a place of breathtaking beauty and profound mystery. Trails lead to serene lakes, panoramic vistas, and hidden waterfalls. Yet, for those willing to explore beyond the ordinary, the forest offers something else entirely. Among the trees, shadows move, and the hunter's experience serves as a reminder that in this vast wilderness, the line between the natural and the unknown is thin. The large, shadowy figure watching from the tree line may vanish when approached, but its memory lingers, an enduring symbol of the Adirondacks' hidden mysteries, waiting for the next adventurer who dares to enter its depths. The Black Hills of South Dakota rise abruptly from the surrounding plains, a rugged expanse of pine-covered ridges, deep canyons, and hidden valleys. Revered by the Lakota Sioux and other Native American tribes, these hills have long been considered sacred ground, a place where the natural world and the spiritual realm intersect. Among the most enduring tales is that of a group of explorers who, deep within the Black Hills, claim to have encountered the apparition of Sitting Bull, warning them to leave the sacred land. The story begins in the early 1900s, when a small expedition of explorers ventured into a remote section of the Black Hills. They were drawn by reports of hidden caves, mineral-rich streams, an untouched wilderness that promised adventure and discovery. The group was composed of seasoned outdoorsmen, mapmakers, and amateur historians, confident in their ability to navigate the rugged terrain. They carried supplies, cameras, and journals, intending to document both the natural beauty and the history of the hills. For the first few days, their expedition went smoothly. The explorers marveled at the towering pines, the abrupt cliffs, and the narrow streams that cut through the valleys. They documented petroglyphs and traces of ancient settlements, believing they were uncovering the hidden past of the region. Yet as they moved deeper into the hills, the atmosphere began to change. A heavy silence settled over the forest, broken only by the occasional call of a distant bird or the whisper of wind through the trees. Shadows grew longer and darker, and the familiar landmarks they had been relying on seemed to shift subtly, as if the forest itself were rearranging. It was on the third night of their journey that the encounter occurred. The explorers had set up camp in a small clearing near a rocky outcrop. At first, they assumed it was another traveler, perhaps a prospector or a local scout. But as the figure approached, it became clear that this was no ordinary man. He was dressed in traditional Lakota attire, a feathered headdress and long robes flowing with the wind. His presence exuded authority and calm, yet carried an undeniable weight of warning. The explorers froze, unsure whether to speak or flee. The figure raised a hand in a gesture that was both commanding and cautionary. Then, in a voice that seemed to echo across the clearing without sound, he spoke, a warning to leave the hills, to respect the sacred ground, and not to disturb what had been protected for generations. Though no words were audible in the conventional sense, the explorers felt the message deeply, as if it had been imprinted directly onto their consciousness. One of them later described the experience as a communication beyond language, beyond the understanding of the living. When the figure vanished, it left an unsettling stillness in the air. The explorers felt a combination of awe, fear, and profound respect. They attempted to follow the figure into the forest. The ground showed no footprints, the trees bore no marks, and yet the sense of presence lingered. A reminder that the hills themselves had witnessed something extraordinary. The group decided to heed the warning, packing their camp and retracing their steps back toward more familiar trails. Though their original mission had been one of exploration and discovery, they returned with a story far more significant than maps or photographs, a story of a spiritual encounter that defied explanation. In the years since, locals and travelers have recounted similar experiences in the Black Hills. Hikers speak of shadowy figures appearing near cliff edges or along narrow trails, vanishing the moment they are approached. Campers report strange sounds at night, footsteps circling their tents, whispers in the wind, and a profound sense of being watched. Some claim to have seen glowing forms hovering near petroglyphs or burial mounds, often accompanied by chills that seem to seep into the very bones. These experiences are often accompanied by an unshakable feeling that the hills themselves are alive, aware, and protective of the land and its history. Attempting to reconcile the legends with historical accounts, the Lakota Sioux have passed down stories of spirits who guard the land, ensuring that the sacred places remain undisturbed. Some describe encounters with ancestors who appear as omens or guides, while others speak of more mysterious phenomena, lights in the woods, unexplainable sounds, or shadows moving independently of natural causes. The story of the explorers and the apparition of Sitting Bull fits within this broader tradition, a modern echo of ancient beliefs that continue to resonate. Even for skeptics, the Black Hills inspire a sense of reverence and caution. The landscape itself fits, cliffs, valleys, and forests creates a powerful presence, and the combination of natural grandeur and cultural significance leaves an impression that lingers long after leaving. Those who enter the hills are reminded that this is not merely a wilderness for recreation or exploration. It is a place of history, memory, and spirit, where the living and the unseen coexist in subtle, often inexplicable ways. For modern visitors, the legend of the apparition serves as both a warning and a guide. Hikers and explorers are encouraged to respect the trails, the sacred sites, and the quiet majesty of the hills. Some claim that if one walks with reverence, the hills may offer glimpses of the extraordinary, a fleeting figure in the trees, a whisper on the wind, or the subtle sense of connection to those who came before. But disregard for the land, or for the spirits said to inhabit it, can result in encounters that are unsettling, or even terrifying. Reminder that the Black Hills are as much a spiritual landscape as a natural one. The Black Hills of South Dakota remain a place of breathtaking beauty, mystery, and reverence. The story of the explorers and the apparition of Sitting Bull continues to be told, a testament to the enduring power of the land and the spirits who inhabit it. Those who enter the forest and valleys are advised to tread carefully, respect the sacredness of the hills, and remain aware that some presences, though unseen, are always watching. In the Black Hills, history, legend, and the supernatural converge, creating a landscape that is both awe-inspiring and haunting. The Angeles National Forest in Southern California spans more than 700,000 acres of rugged mountains, deep canyons, and densely wooded slopes. It is a place of natural beauty, drawing hikers, campers, and outdoor enthusiasts seeking adventure and solitude. Yet beneath its serene landscape lies a dark history, one marked by tragedy, disappearances, and unexplained phenomena. Among the forest's most chilling tales is the story of a young couple who vanished while hiking, only to be discovered years later in a remote, seldom visited part of the forest. Their story has since become a cautionary tale, whispered among locals and hikers alike. A haunting reminder of the forest's unpredictable and sometimes sinister nature. The couple, both in their mid-20s, were avid hikers with a passion for exploring California's wilderness. They had spent years venturing into the Angeles, seeking trails that were off the beaten path, places where few travelers dared to go. One weekend in early autumn, they set out for a multi-day hike along a rugged portion of the forest known for its steep cliffs and secluded valleys. The weather was crisp, and the forest was alive with the colors of changing leaves. Friends and family were aware of their trip, expecting them to return within 3 days. When the couple failed to check in at the end of their planned hike, search parties were organized. Initially, authorities and volunteers combed the usual trails, hoping to find some trace of them. Days turned into weeks, and the forest yielded nothing. The dense terrain, steep cliffs, and winding canyons made search efforts extremely difficult, and despite the best efforts of volunteers, the couple seemed to have vanished without a trace. Over time, hope diminished, and their disappearance became one of the forest's many unsolved mysteries. It wasn't until years later that their bodies were discovered in a remote section of the forest, rarely visited by hikers. The area, hidden behind a tangle of brush and narrow cliffs, had remained untouched and almost entirely inaccessible. Authorities could not determine exactly how the couple had ended up there, and the circumstances of their deaths remained unclear. No signs of foul play were ever conclusively found, but the mysteries surrounding their disappearance fueled speculation and fear. The forest had claimed them, leaving only a haunting reminder of the danger hidden beneath its beauty. Hikers who visit the forest today often recount strange experiences in the same area where the couple was found. Some report hearing voices carried on the wind, faint cries or laughter that seemed to echo through the canyons. Others describe seeing fleeting shadows at the edges of their vision, only for the figures to vanish when attention is focused. Campers have occasionally woken to the sound of footsteps circling their tents in the middle of the night. Despite being alone, these reports, while anecdotal, have contributed to the forest's reputation as a place where the line between the natural and the supernatural is thin. One story involves a solo hiker who took a trail near the remote cliffs. As he ascended, he noticed a pair of figures moving in the distance, partially obscured by trees. At first, he assumed they were other hikers, but as he drew closer, he realized the figures were strangely still and lifelike, almost as if frozen in time. A chill ran through him, and he turned to leave, only to feel the unmistakable sensation of being watched. When he glanced back, the figures were gone, leaving no trace of anyone having been there. He later learned of the couple who had disappeared in that part of the forest years before and wondered if he had seen something connected to their lingering spirits. Local lore suggests that the Angeles National Forest carries the weight of many tragedies. Tales of lost hikers, unexplained deaths, and violent acts are woven into the forest's history, lending it an eerie aura. Some believe that the forest itself is sentient, reacting to those who venture too far into its remote corners, manifesting illusions or strange phenomena to warn or repel intruders. Others attribute the occurrences to restless spirits of those who died tragically, unable to leave the forest behind. The story of the missing couple embodies these fears, a reminder that even experienced hikers are vulnerable in the vast, unpredictable wilderness. Visitors today are cautioned to respect the forest, remain on marked trails, and avoid wandering into isolated areas. Many follow this advice, yet curiosity sometimes leads thrill seekers or paranormal enthusiasts into the forest's shadowed corners, hoping to experience firsthand the eerie phenomena that have been reported. For those who enter the forest, it is impossible to ignore the feeling that the woods have a life of their own, that they are watching, waiting, and perhaps protecting the secrets hidden within their depths. The area where the couple was found remains particularly ominous. Dense foliage, sheer cliffs, and narrow, winding paths create an environment where one can easily become disoriented. Many hikers have reported sudden drops in temperature in this section, even during warm months, and the silence can feel oppressive, broken only by distant rustling or the calls of unseen wildlife. Some claim to see glowing orbs floating among the trees, or mist that seems to take on humanoid forms. Whether these experiences are the result of natural phenomena or something beyond explanation, they contribute to the sense that this part of the forest is haunted, even during daylight. The Angeles National Forest can inspire both awe and unease. Trails wind past towering pines, rocky cliffs, and hidden streams, and the beauty is undeniable. But for those aware of the forest's dark history, there is an underlying tension, a sense that the forest carries its memories, that it holds on to the events of the past, and that those who enter might encounter more than just nature. The story of the missing couple is never far from hikers' minds, a chilling reminder of how quickly the forest can claim even the most prepared and experienced explorers. The Angeles National Forest is a place of contrasts, stunning beauty, rugged wilderness, and lingering mystery. The tale of the couple who disappeared and were found years later serves as both a warning and a testament to the forest's power. Those who enter are reminded to tread carefully, to respect the land, and to remain aware that the forest, while breathtaking, is also home to shadows that refuse to be forgotten. It is a place where the past lingers, where the unexplained can emerge at any moment, and where even the most ordinary hike can become a brush with the unknown. The White Mountain National Forest in New Hampshire is a vast expanse of rugged peaks, dense woods, and hidden valleys, dominated by the towering presence of Mount Washington. The forest has long been both a sanctuary and a challenge for hikers, climbers, and outdoor enthusiasts. Its beauty is undeniable: thick pine forests, rushing streams, and panoramic views that stretch for miles. But the forest has a darker side, steeped in eerie legends, mysterious disappearances, and stories that have persisted for generations. Among the most haunting of these tales is that of a hiker who vanished without a trace, leaving behind nothing but a single boot as a chilling marker of the unknown. The hiker, a young man in his late 20s, was an experienced outdoorsman with a deep knowledge of the White Mountains and their unpredictable weather, exploring both well-trodden paths and lesser-known trails. One early autumn weekend, he set out on a solo expedition along a remote stretch of the forest. Friends and family were aware of his plans, expecting him to return by nightfall, but he never did. His disappearance was discovered only the next day, when a search party, dispatched after he failed to check in, found his campsite empty. No footprints leading away from the area, and no indication of where he might have gone. All that remained was a single hiking boot, lying alone on a moss-covered trail near the base of a rocky incline. The boot seemed almost deliberately placed, an eerie remnant of his presence and a haunting clue that something had occurred in the forest that defied explanation. With dense fog rolling in without warning, or temperatures dropping drastically within minutes. Others recount the sensation of being watched while walking along secluded trails. A feeling so intense that they turn around only to see nothing but empty forest. Many have reported hearing footsteps behind them on quiet paths, or glimpsing fleeting shadows that vanish the moment attention is focused on them. The cumulative effect of these experiences has reinforced the forest's reputation as a place where the natural and supernatural seem to intersect. One hiker, exploring the same region years after the disappearance, shared an unsettling encounter. As he ascended a steep trail near a rocky outcrop, he felt a sudden chill, despite a clear and sunny day. He paused, sensing movement in the dense underbrush beside him. Turning toward the sound, he saw a figure in the distance, a man, wearing hiking clothes that appeared worn and faded, standing perfectly still. Later, the hiker realized the figure bore a resemblance to the missing man, whose boot had become infamous among locals. Though he could not confirm what he had seen, the White Mountain National Forest has long been associated with stories of vanishing hikers and mysterious occurrences. Mount Washington, known for its extreme and unpredictable weather, is often called the home of the world's worst weather. High winds, sudden storms, and rapidly dropping temperatures make the region especially dangerous, and even experienced hikers can be caught off guard. Many disappearances, including that of the lone hiker, have been attributed to these extreme conditions. Yet the eerie circumstances surrounding the boot and other accounts of shadowy figures or inexplicable sounds suggest that there may be more to the forest's mysteries than nature alone. Local legend holds that certain areas of the forest are imbued with residual energy, places where past tragedies echo across time. Hikers speak of feeling an invisible presence guiding them or warning them away, sometimes accompanied by the faint whisper of a voice carried on the wind. Others describe the trail appearing to shift subtly, leading them off course despite careful navigation. The combination of treacherous terrain, unpredictable weather, and these unexplainable phenomena creates an atmosphere of tension and unease, where the line between ordinary hazard and supernatural influence is blurred. Rangers and search teams often emphasize that the forest's challenges are very real. Steep cliffs, loose rocks, dense undergrowth, and sudden weather changes make the White Mountains inherently dangerous. But even those who understand the terrain and come prepared sometimes experience the unexplainable flash of movement, a feeling of being followed, or the sense that something unseen is observing them from the trees. Many hikers now consider the story of the vanished hiker a cautionary tale, a reminder that even expertise and preparation cannot fully shield one from the forest's mysteries, or the echo of footsteps where no one walks. Some hikers claim to have seen ghostly figures moving between the trees or caught glimpses of shadowy shapes near cliff edges, vanishing when approached, while skeptics attribute these experiences to imagination or the forest's natural acoustics and shadows. The consistency of reports over decades suggests that something beyond explanation resides in the forest. Even during daylight, the White Mountain National Forest has an uncanny quality. Mist often clings to the ridges, and sunlight filtering through the pines creates long, shifting shadows. Trails can twist unexpectedly, and familiar landmarks sometimes appear to move or disappear, adding to the sense of disorientation. Those who venture into the forest are keenly aware that it is a place where the ordinary and extraordinary coexist, where beauty and danger are intertwined, and where past tragedies continue to leave their mark. The story of the vanished hiker and the solitary boot has become a symbol of the forest's mysteries. It serves as a warning to those who enter. Respect the land, remain vigilant, and be mindful of the unpredictable forces that inhabit both the natural and supernatural realms. The White Mountain National Forest remains a place of awe, wonder, and lingering unease, a wilderness where a single missing hiker can transform the landscape into a realm of questions that may never be answered, and where the forest itself seems to hold on to its secrets, silently observing all who walk its shadowed trails. The Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky stretches across more than 700,000 acres of rugged hills, deep hollows, and winding rivers. Named after the legendary frontiersman, the forest is steeped in history, from early European settlements to the complex legacies of Native American tribes who once called this land home. Today, hikers, campers, and adventurers are drawn to its natural beauty, the dense forests, cascading waterfalls, and remote trails that offer solitude and a connection to the past. Yet beneath its picturesque landscapes lies a history marked by conflict, tragedy, and lingering spirits. Among the forest's most chilling tales is that of a settler who was killed by Native Americans. His spirit said to wander the dense woods, seeking revenge on those who trespass. The story begins in the late 18th century, during the era of early American frontier expansion. Settlers moved into the hills and valleys of Kentucky. Among these pioneers was a man whose determination and ambition set him apart. He established a small cabin in a remote section of the forest, near a bend in a river that provided both water and fertile soil. Yet, as was often the case on the frontier, his presence encroached upon lands long inhabited by Native American tribes. One fateful evening, as the settler returned to his cabin after tending his land, he was ambushed by a small group of Native Americans. The attack was swift and brutal, leaving him mortally wounded in the shadows of the forest he had sought to claim. According to local accounts, the settler's death left a profound mark on the area, and some believe that the intensity of his anger and desire for vengeance tethered his spirit to the woods. Over time, tales emerged of a restless presence, a figure wandering the forest trails, appearing to those who ventured too far into the unsettled regions where history and memory intertwine. Hikers and campers in the Daniel Boone National Forest have long reported encounters with this vengeful spirit. Witnesses describe seeing a man in frontier clothing, often appearing suddenly in the distance before vanishing without a trace. Some hikers have felt a cold, oppressive presence behind them on isolated trails, accompanied by a sensation of eyes watching from the shadows. Others have reported hearing the sound of footsteps following them through dense underbrush, only to find nothing when they turn to confront the source. These experiences are often accompanied by an unshakable sense of danger, as though the spirit is both aware and deliberately asserting its presence. One chilling account comes from a group of campers who set up near a secluded hollow, far from any established trail. During the night, they heard faint cries echoing through the trees, carried by the wind. When they investigated, they saw the silhouette of a man standing atop a ridge, bathed in moonlight, staring down at them with an intensity that sent shivers down their spines. Before they could call out or approach, the figure disappeared, leaving behind only the faint echo of the cries and the sensation that they were being warned, or perhaps judged for intruding upon the forest's haunted history. The forest itself seems to enhance the sense of the supernatural. Thick stands of oak, hickory, and pine block sunlight, casting long, shifting shadows that transform familiar paths into disorienting corridors. Fog often drifts through the valleys, creating an ethereal landscape where shapes and sounds can appear distorted. The rolling terrain, with its hidden hollows and narrow ravines, allows echoes to travel in strange ways, making it easy to mistake natural sounds for footsteps or voices. Yet despite these explanations, the consistency of encounters with the settler's spirit has led many to believe that something beyond the ordinary inhabits the forest. Local lore suggests that the settler's spirit is bound not only by anger but by a sense of injustice. Those who have encountered him report feelings of intense awareness, as if the spirit recognizes intrusion into its domain. Some say he appears more frequently along old hunting paths or near remnants of abandoned homesteads, places that retain the memory of frontier life. Hikers have occasionally found disturbed soil, footprints, or broken branches in areas that should have remained undisturbed, reinforcing the idea that the spirit is both present and active, watching over the forest. Anthropologists and historians note that the Daniel Boone National Forest is layered with stories from multiple eras, from Native American legends to pioneer tragedies. The forest's haunted reputation likely stems from the collision of these histories, combined with the forest's natural capacity to inspire awe and fear. Yet the specific tale of the vengeful settler persists because of the striking experiences reported by visitors. The sudden glimpses of a figure, the unexplainable sounds, and the pervasive feeling that the past continues to reach out from the shadows. Even during the daytime, the forest can feel charged with an unusual energy. Sunlight filtering through the canopy creates sharp contrasts between light and shadow, and the wind can carry distant sounds in unpredictable ways. A prickling awareness that they are not alone. Some hikers take this as a sign to respect the forest's history, leaving offerings at certain sites or simply turning back to avoid further intrusion. Others are drawn by curiosity, hoping to catch a glimpse of the unexplained. Though many return with stories of fleeting shadows, whispers, or the unmistakable sense of being followed. The tale of the settler who was killed in the Daniel Boone National Forest has endured for centuries, passed down through generations as both warning and legend. It is a reminder that the forest is more than a collection of trees, and trails. It is a living repository of history, memory, and unresolved spirits. For those who enter, the forest offers beauty and adventure, but it also holds lessons about respect, caution, and awareness of forces that may linger beyond the realm of the living. The Daniel Boone National Forest remains a place of contrasts, breathtaking landscapes, deep history, and lingering mystery. The story of the vengeful settler exemplifies the forest's darker side, a presence that haunts trails, hollows, and ridges. Hikers and explorers who walk these paths today are advised to tread carefully, to honor the land and its past, and to remain mindful that in this forest, the shadows may carry more than just the shapes of trees. They may hold the spirit of a frontier past, restless and watching, forever wandering the woods in search of those who dare enter its depths. The Jefferson National Forest in Virginia stretches across hundreds of miles of the Appalachian Mountains, encompassing dense woodlands, winding streams, and rugged ridges. It is a forest rich in natural beauty, drawing hikers, campers, and outdoor enthusiasts seeking solitude amid towering oaks, maples, and pines. Yet beneath the tranquil canopy lies a darker legacy, one woven into the shadows of the trees and whispered through the generations. Among the forest's most chilling legends is the story of a woman who became lost in its depths and was never found. Her cries for help said to echo through the forest on quiet nights, a haunting reminder of the forest's capacity to inspire both awe and terror. The story begins many decades ago, though the exact date has been lost to time. A young woman, adventurous and curious, had ventured into the Jefferson National Forest alone. She had intended a short hike, following trails that were considered familiar and safe. Friends and family expected her to return by evening, but as the sun began to dip below the ridges, she failed to appear. Panic grew as darkness fell, and search parties were organized to comb the forest. But the dense woods proved nearly impenetrable. Thick undergrowth, steep slopes, and narrow hollows made navigation extremely difficult. And despite days of searching, no trace of the woman was ever discovered. Over time, the story of her disappearance transformed into a local legend. Residents and hikers began reporting strange experiences in the area where she was last seen. Some claimed to hear a woman's voice carried on the wind, faint at first, but growing louder and more desperate, as if calling for help. Others described seeing fleeting shadows between the trees, shapes that vanished when approached, leaving only the sensation of being watched. Campers have awakened to the sound of soft sobbing echoing through the woods, unable to locate its source. While some hikers report an overwhelming sense of unease that seems to intensify as they venture deeper into the forest. One particularly unsettling account comes from a group of hikers exploring a remote trail late one autumn afternoon. As the sun set, a sudden chill descended, unusual for the season. They paused near a stream, and one member heard a faint, trembling cry. At first, they assumed it was an animal in distress, but the sound grew clearer, woman's voice calling their names, begging for help. They called out in response, but the cries only seemed to multiply. echoing from multiple directions at once. The group hurried back toward the main trail, glancing behind them to see a pale figure standing among the trees, motionless and observing, before it vanished entirely. Even after leaving the forest, the hikers reported feeling as though unseen eyes continued to follow them, a lingering reminder of the forest's enigmatic presence. The Jefferson National Forest's reputation for eerie phenomena is not limited to auditory experiences. Many who venture off established trails speak of sudden disorientation, as if familiar landmarks have shifted or vanished. Compasses sometimes behave erratically, and hikers report strange cold spots in areas that should be warm. A chill that seems to seep into the bones. The forest's dense canopy and uneven terrain create shadows and sounds that can easily be misinterpreted. Yet the consistency of these reports suggests something beyond simple illusion. The legend of the lost woman has become intertwined with these experiences, giving the forest a reputation as a place where the ordinary rules of navigation and perception may not apply. Local lore also suggests that the woman's spirit remains tethered to the forest, endlessly searching for a way out that was denied in life. Witnesses claim that if one follows the sound of her cries, the trail often leads to nowhere, a loop of trees and undergrowth that seems to shift and change. Others report glimpsing her in fog-covered clearings, a figure in light-colored clothing, standing silently before vanishing as attention is focused on her. The tales warn that the forest is alive in a way beyond the natural world, a place where unresolved tragedies leave imprints on the landscape itself. The forest has long been a source of both fascination and caution. Rangers and local guides often remind hikers to remain on marked trails, carry proper equipment, and avoid wandering into remote hollows alone. But curiosity often draws adventurers into the forest's shadowed corners, where the combination of dense trees, uneven terrain, and lingering legend creates an atmosphere of tension and unease. Even experienced hikers have reported moments of disorientation, unexpected chills, and a sensation of being followed, all of which contribute to the forest's eerie mystique. Anthropologists and folklorists note that the story of the lost woman fits within a broader tradition of Appalachian ghost tales, where spirits of the missing or wronged are said to linger near the places of their demise. The Jefferson National Forest, with its dense woods and rugged topography, provides an ideal setting for such legends. The combination of real dangers, like steep slopes and sudden weather changes, with the psychological weight of a forest steeped in history, enhances the plausibility of supernatural experiences. The woman's cries, her fleeting appearances, and the sense of being watched create a narrative that resonates with both fear and fascination. Even during the day, the forest carries an aura of quiet foreboding. Sunlight filtering through thick canopies creates long shadows that stretch across the forest floor, and mist often clings to valleys, obscuring trails and distorting perception. The sounds of wildlife, the calls of birds, the rustling of leaves, the distant roar of a stream can be amplified into something uncanny, especially when combined with the forest's legends. Hikers and campers are often struck by the feeling that the forest is aware, that it holds on to the memories of those who have wandered into it and never returned. The story of the woman lost in the Jefferson National Forest endures as a haunting reminder of the forest's mysteries. Her cries, said to echo through the trees on quiet nights, serve as both a warning and a testament to the forest's enduring power over those who enter. Visitors today are advised to respect the trails, remain vigilant, and be mindful that even in a well-trodden wilderness, shadows can conceal more than just wildlife. In the Jefferson National Forest, beauty and danger coexist, and the spirit of a lost woman continues to wander, calling out to those who dare enter her domain, leaving behind an echo of tragedy that lingers in every rustling leaf and shifting shadow. The Wayne National Forest in southeastern Ohio spans over 240,000 acres of rugged hills, winding creeks, and dense woodlands. Known for its natural beauty, the forest draws hikers, campers, and history enthusiasts alike. Yet beneath the canopy of towering trees and quiet streams lies a landscape steeped in the echoes of the past. The forest is interwoven with stories dating back to the Civil War, a time when soldiers traversed these hills, fought skirmishes, and left behind more than just memories. Among the most chilling legends is that of a soldier killed in battle, whose restless spirit is said to march through the forest at night, a spectral reminder of the bloodshed and loss that once stained the land. During the Civil War, southeastern Ohio served as a strategic location, with soldiers from both the Union and Confederate sides passing through the dense hills and valleys. And many soldiers lost their lives far from home, buried hastily or left unmarked in the dense woods. Local lore claims that one young soldier, a member of a Union regiment, was ambushed by enemy forces while scouting near a creek in what is now the heart of Wayne National Forest. Despite his bravery, he was struck down, and his body was never recovered. Over time, stories emerged of a lone soldier appearing in the forest after dark, marching as if still on duty, forever caught between the world of the living and the dead. Those who hike or camp in the forest today sometimes report unsettling experiences along the very trails that follow the old paths and ridges of Civil War-era movements. Hikers have recounted hearing the distinct sound of marching footsteps echoing through the dense trees late at night, though no one else is present. Some describe the rhythmic crunch of boots on leaves or dirt, a cadence so precise it mirrors military drills. Others have claimed to catch glimpses of a uniformed figure standing among the trees, often illuminated briefly by moonlight, before vanishing as if dissolving into the forest itself. These encounters, whether imagined or supernatural, have lent the Wayne National Forest a reputation as a place where the past lingers in more ways than one. One chilling account comes from a group of hikers exploring a remote ridge near a creek. As twilight fell, they set up camp and sat quietly around their fire. Suddenly, the unmistakable sound of marching boots approached from the forest, growing louder with each step. Confused and frightened, they called out, but the sound continued unabated, as though the soldier were deaf to their presence. Moments later, they glimpsed a shadowy figure moving along the ridge, upright and purposeful, carrying an air of solemn duty. When they attempted to follow it, the figure vanished into the trees, leaving only the echo of footsteps fading into the night. The hikers left the area before dawn, convinced they had encountered the restless spirit of the fallen soldier. He is said to patrol the forest tirelessly, appearing to anyone who wanders too close to historical battle sites or old military routes. Witnesses often describe a feeling of being watched, a subtle chill in the air, or the sudden sense that the forest itself has grown tense, as though aware of the intrusion. Some hikers have reported seeing multiple figures marching in formation through the underbrush, only to vanish when approached, reinforcing the belief that these are not mere hallucinations, but echoes of history itself, preserved in spectral form. In addition to the soldier's apparition, the Wayne National Forest has become known for other unexplained phenomena. Strange lights are sometimes seen flickering among the trees, particularly along old logging roads and remote ridges. Disembodied voices, faint and distorted, have been reported echoing through valleys and hollows. Compasses occasionally behave erratically, and hikers have noted areas where GPS devices fail or signal becomes unreliable. While some explanations point to natural causes, terrain, magnetic anomalies, or the forest as acoustics, the sheer consistency of accounts suggests that something more mysterious resides in the woods. The forest's thick canopy and rugged terrain create an atmosphere that heightens the sense of the uncanny. Trails twist unexpectedly, and familiar landmarks can appear to shift in the dim light of dusk or dawn. Dense underbrush and steep slopes can conceal movement, creating illusions that are difficult to distinguish from reality. Yet the presence of the soldier's spirit, or the impression of him, is persistent enough to be recognized by multiple independent witnesses. Those who encounter him describe a mixture of awe, fear, and reverence, as though acknowledging a figure who remains forever tied to the forest and its history. Rangers and local guides caution visitors to respect the forest, remain on established trails, and be prepared for its challenges. The real dangers of the wilderness: steep hills, unpredictable weather, and dense foliage enforce the forest's mystique. Many hikers treat the soldier's tale as both a warning and a historical curiosity, acknowledging that the past in the Wayne National Forest is never far away. Even those who do not believe in ghosts report an undeniable sense of tension or unease in certain areas, a lingering reminder of battles fought and lives lost. Even in daylight, the forest conveys a quiet, somber presence. Sunlight filters through the thick canopy, casting long shadows across moss-covered stones and fallen logs. Streams glint with reflected light, as though the land itself holds its breath. Hikers and campers who sense the soldier's presence often describe a subtle awareness that history is alive, embedded in the very soil and trees, and that the echoes of the past continue to move through the forest. The legend of the fallen soldier in the Wayne National Forest endures as a haunting testament to the forest's dark history. His ghostly march serves as both a reminder of the forest's Civil War past, and the echoes of the past are never truly gone. Visitors who tread the forest trails today are advised to respect both its natural and historical significance, mindful that, in the quiet of the night, the rhythmic march of a restless soldier may still reverberate through the trees, forever patrolling the woods he once walked in life, and perhaps continuing his watch into eternity. The Chattahoochee National Forest in northern Georgia spans over 750,000 acres of rugged mountains, rushing streams, and dense woodlands. Renowned for its natural beauty, the forest draws hikers, anglers, and outdoor enthusiasts seeking solace amid the towering oaks, maples, and pines. Yet beneath the serene canopy lies a history interwoven with tragedy and mystery, a place where the line between the natural and supernatural often blurs. Among the most enduring stories is that of a fisherman who vanished without a trace, leaving his boat adrift on a quiet river, a haunting mystery that has puzzled locals and visitors for decades. The story dates back many years, during a time when the forest was less accessible and rivers and streams provided the primary routes for both travel and recreation. The fisherman, a man known to many in the nearby towns, was an experienced outdoorsman who spent much of his life exploring the forest and its waterways. He often fished alone, drawn to the remote and tranquil sections of rivers that few others dared to approach. On one misty morning, he set out in his small wooden boat, planning to spend the day along a secluded stretch of river, far from the main roads. He never returned. When his absence became apparent, a search was quickly organized. Locals scoured the banks, hiked the surrounding trails, and paddled up and down the river, but there was no sign of the fisherman. Days later, his boat was discovered drifting in the middle of the river, untethered and empty, with no signs of struggle or explanation. No footprints led to or from the water, no belongings were found floating nearby, and there was no indication of where he might have gone. The incident sparked fear and speculation, and over time, the forest itself became associated with his mysterious disappearance. Since that day, countless visitors to the Chattahoochee National Forest have reported strange experiences along the rivers and streams where the fisherman was last seen. Canoeists and anglers often describe hearing splashes or the sound of a boat approaching in the early morning fog, only to find the waters calm and empty when they look. Some report seeing a shadowy figure along the bank, a man in weathered clothing, who vanishes when approached. Others have felt a sudden, inexplicable chill while fishing, as though the forest itself were aware of their presence, or have heard faint, mournful calls echoing across the water. The stories suggest that the fisherman's spirit may still linger, bound to the river he loved, eternally wandering the currents he once navigated in life. One particularly unsettling account comes from a couple canoeing along a remote stretch of the river at dawn. The mist clung low to the water, and the forest was silent except for the gentle lapping of their paddles. Suddenly, they heard the unmistakable sound of oars striking water from behind them. They turned, expecting to see another boat, but the river was empty. Moments later, a figure appeared on the far bank, pale and motionless, watching them intently. As they blinked, the figure vanished into the trees, leaving the couple shaken and uncertain whether what they had seen was real or a trick of the mist and light. Locals say that the river itself seems to carry the fisherman's presence, and some caution visitors to respect the waters and tread carefully. The forest's dense canopy, steep ridges, and hidden coves create an environment where echoes travel strangely. Shadows shift unpredictably, and the line between reality and imagination can blur. This combination of natural conditions and tragic history has contributed to the enduring legend of the lost fisherman, a story retold by guides, rangers, and longtime residents as both warning and intrigue. Beyond the river, the Chattahoochee National Forest is known for other unexplained phenomena that lend weight to its eerie reputation. Campers have reported tents mysteriously disturbed overnight, sudden cold spots near quiet trails, and the sensation of being watched from the forest edges. Hikers occasionally glimpse fleeting shapes among the trees or hear voices whispering in the wind, though no one else is nearby. While some skeptics attribute these experiences to wildlife, shifting weather, or imagination, the consistency and detail of multiple accounts suggests that the forest holds secrets beyond ordinary explanation. The legend of the fisherman has also inspired curiosity and caution among outdoor enthusiasts. Many still venture to the river, drawn by the possibility of encountering the unexplained, though few actively seek it. Some leave offerings along the banks, small tokens of respect to a spirit that may linger, while others simply take care to avoid certain stretches after dusk or during foggy mornings. The story has become part of the forest's identity, intertwined with its natural beauty and the quiet, mysterious energy that permeates its hidden corners. Even in broad daylight, the forest maintains an air of quiet tension. Sunlight filters through the thick canopy, casting long shadows that shift with the wind, and mist often drifts through the hollows, creating ghostly shapes among the trees. The rushing water of streams and rivers, normally peaceful and inviting, can suddenly take on an ominous tone, reflecting the sense that something unseen may be watching from the banks or beneath the surface. For those attuned to the forest's stories, these subtle signs are a reminder that the natural world here is intertwined with the past, carrying echoes of those who have vanished into its depths. The tale of the lost fisherman continues to haunt the Chattahoochee National Forest, a story of disappearance, mystery, and lingering presence. It serves as a reminder of both the forest's beauty and its capacity to unsettle. A wilderness where a single life lost can echo across decades, and where those who enter may feel the faint, haunting presence of a figure still navigating the river's currents. Visitors today are advised to respect the land and its waters, mindful that in the quiet of dawn or the hush of evening, the forest may reveal that some spirits never truly leave, and that the echoes of the past can linger long after the sun has set. The Nantahala National Forest in western North Carolina stretches across more than 500,000 acres of rugged mountains, deep gorges, and dense woodland. Its name, derived from a Cherokee word meaning land of the noonday sun, evokes the mystery and beauty of this region, where sunlight barely reaches the forest floor in the deepest valleys. Visitors come for its breathtaking scenery, rushing rivers, and abundant wildlife. Yet, amid the natural splendor lies a darker side, one shaped by legends passed down for generations. Among these is the story of a hermit who lived deep within the forest, a man whose life and death have become intertwined with the very soul of the woods. It is said that his spirit now watches over the forest, protecting it from those who would disturb its solitude or defile its ancient landscapes. But local lore paints a vivid picture. He was a recluse, living in a crude cabin carved into a secluded hollow, far from the trails and roads that wind through the mountains. Some say he arrived in the forest decades ago, drawn by a desire to live away from society and its encroaching modernity. Others believe he had been a soldier, a wanderer, or a man fleeing personal tragedy, seeking solace among the trees and streams. Whatever his past, he became a constant, if unseen, presence in the forest. Hikers occasionally reported glimpses of a figure moving silently among the trees. A man with a long beard and weathered clothing, who seemed to know every hidden trail, every bend in the river, and every ridge that overlooked the valleys below. The hermit was said to be fiercely protective of his home and the surrounding forest. Tales tell of hunters or trespassers who strayed too far from established paths, encountering him suddenly, appearing out of the mist like a shadow materialized from the trees. Witnesses often describe a sudden, inexplicable sense of danger, a chilling awareness that they were being watched. Some claim he confronted intruders directly, demanding they leave the area or face consequences, though few dared to test his warnings. Over time, the forest itself seemed to adopt his guardianship, with the hermit's presence becoming both legend and warning. Respect the land, or face the unknown. After his death, which occurred under circumstances that remain uncertain, the hermit's spirit reportedly lingered. Hikers and campers tell of strange occurrences in the areas he once frequented. Some describe hearing footsteps echoing through remote hollows when no one else is near, observing silently before vanishing. Others have noted that wildlife behaves strangely in certain parts of the forest. Deer freeze mid-step, birds fall silent, and an eerie stillness settles over areas where the hermit's cabin once stood. These subtle signs have reinforced the belief that the hermit's spirit continues to protect the forest, ensuring that those who enter its depths do so with respect and caution. One chilling account comes from a pair of hikers navigating a remote ridge in late autumn. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, mist rolled through the valleys, and an oppressive silence settled over the trail. Suddenly, one of them felt a presence behind him. Turning, he caught sight of a tall figure standing on the ridge, outlined faintly by the remaining light. The figure did not move, did not speak, yet its gaze was felt with an intensity that sent a shiver down the hiker's spine. When he looked back moments later, the figure had vanished, leaving only the rustle of leaves and the echo of his own heartbeat. The hikers later agreed that they had encountered something beyond the natural world. A spirit whose purpose was not malevolent, but protective, a guardian of the forest's hidden heart. The forest itself seems to echo the hermit's vigilance. Trails in his former territory often appear altered, paths twisting unexpectedly, or landmarks seeming to shift in subtle ways. Campers have reported waking to find their tents subtly disturbed, small items moved, or footprints appearing in the soft soil around their campsites. In some cases, visitors describe an overwhelming sense of being watched, accompanied by a sudden drop in temperature or the sound of whispered warnings carried on the wind. Many who encounter these phenomena leave the area quickly, believing they have crossed into a zone watched over by the forest's unseen guardian. In addition to eerie sightings, the hermit's legend has inspired stories of protection. There are accounts of hikers who, lost or injured, have found their way to safety along paths they did not recognize. Some claim that if they make respectful gestures, leaving an offering of a stone, a carved piece of wood, or simply acknowledging the forest with reverence, they feel a sense of calm and assurance, as though the hermit's spirit has acknowledged their intentions. This duality, both warning and protection, has become central to the forest's supernatural identity. The Nantahala National Forest's rugged terrain, steep slopes, and dense canopy amplify the feeling of otherworldliness. Even in daylight, shadows stretch unnaturally, streams and rivers reflect shapes that vanish when approached, and fog can cling to the valleys, creating a landscape that feels suspended between reality and legend. It is in this environment that the hermit's story thrives, a reminder that the forest is not just a collection of trees and trails, but a living, breathing entity shaped by the lives and spirits of those who inhabit it. Today, the legend of the hermit continues to draw curiosity and caution in equal measure. Visitors to the forest are advised to remain on marked trails, respect the natural environment, and maintain an awareness that the forest holds more than just its flora and fauna. The story of the hermit serves as both a cautionary tale and a haunting legacy. Those who enter the Nantahala National Forest may glimpse shadows, hear unexplained sounds, or feel the gaze of a presence unseen. A spirit bound to the forest, protecting its solitude and its secrets. In the depths of these mountains and valleys, the hermit is a Bihilanze and Dudis, a spectral guardian watching over the land he once called home, and reminding all who wander here that some parts of the forest are best approached with reverence and respect. The Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in southern Washington spans nearly 1.3 million acres of towering firs, western hemlocks, and dense underbrush. A sprawling wilderness where rivers carve deep valleys and mist often hangs thick between the trees. Renowned for its beauty and its challenging trails, the forest draws hikers, campers, and adventurers seeking solitude and the raw power of nature. Yet beneath its scenic landscapes lies a quieter, more unsettling present stories of the unexplained, whispered encounters, and shadows that seem to move with a will of their own, always appearing suddenly and disappearing just as mysteriously, leaving only an uneasy silence behind. The story begins with a group of friends exploring a remote section of the forest known for its thick canopies and hidden clearings. They had hiked for hours, winding along steep ridges and through moss-covered hollows, the sunlight barely reaching the forest floor. As they descended toward a small creek, a thick fog began to roll in, enveloping the trees and muffling their footsteps. It was in this eerie stillness that the figure first appeared. Standing among the trees, partially obscured by fog and shadow, was a person draped in a vivid red cloak. The color was striking, unnatural against the muted greens and browns of the forest, as if it had been painted into the scenery. The hikers froze, unsure if what they were seeing was real or a trick of the fog and fading light. The figure did not move, did not speak, simply stood there, watching. There was an intensity to its presence, a silent awareness that seemed to reach through the trees, measuring and observing them. Compelled by a mixture of curiosity and fear, one of the hikers took a cautious step forward. The others called out, but the forest swallowed their voices, leaving only an oppressive quiet. The instant the first step was taken, the figure vanished. No footprints, no rustling of leaves, no sign that it had ever been there, only the fog and the faint echo of their own heartbeats. The hikers searched the surrounding area, scanning every shadow and hollow, but the red cloak was gone. What had appeared so vivid a moment ago had dissolved into the forest as though it had never existed. Word of the encounter spread quickly, and the hikers soon learned that they were not alone. Others who ventured into the deeper regions of the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest reported similar sightings. A camper described waking to see a red flash at the edge of his campsite before it vanished. A solo hiker claimed to have glimpsed a cloaked figure standing silently in a clearing, then disappear when approached. Over time, the sightings created a pattern. The figure always appears alone, always in remote or mist-shrouded areas, and always vanishes when acknowledged, leaving only the echo of its presence and a lingering chill in the air. Some locals speculate that the figure may be a spirit tied to the forest, a guardian or sentinel left behind by those who lived in the region long ago. Others suggest it could be a remnant of early settlers or loggers, a spectral echo of someone who once walked these woods. There are even those who propose a connection to the indigenous peoples of the area, whose deep reverence for the forest and spiritual practices might manifest as fleeting apparitions in the mist. No theory has ever been confirmed, and the figure remains a mystery, both feared and revered by those who explore the forest's hidden corners. Encounters with the red-cloaked figure are often accompanied by other strange phenomena. Hikers have reported sudden drops in temperature, equipment malfunctioning inexplicably, and the feeling of being watched from just beyond the trees. Whispers seem to drift on the wind, indistinct voices that vanish when listeners strain to understand them. Shadows appear to move against the natural flow of sunlight, and paths that should be straightforward twist in ways that seem almost intentional. These experiences have convinced many that the forest itself holds secrets that are protected by something unseen. One account tells of a lone hiker navigating a narrow trail along a ridge at twilight. Fog curled around the trees, and the forest seemed almost unreal in its quiet intensity. As he paused to catch his breath, a vivid red flash appeared through the mist. He turned sharply, catching sight of the figure, cloaked and motionless, staring from a small clearing. His heart raced as he approached, but before he could take another step, the figure dissolved into the fog, leaving him alone with the rustle of leaves and the distant sound of a stream. He would later recount the encounter as both terrifying and awe-inspiring, a moment where the ordinary world seemed to bend into something else entirely. The Gifford Pinchot National Forest, with its dense undergrowth, steep slopes, and ever-shifting mists, provides the perfect setting for a presence that exists on the edge of perception. Even in daylight, shadows twist unnaturally, and fog clings to the hollows, creating fleeting images that may or may not be real. The red-cloaked figure has become emblematic of the forest's haunted reputation, a reminder that there are parts of the natural world where mystery endures and the past continues to whisper through the trees. Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey through America's most haunted forests. If you enjoyed these tales and wish to delve deeper into the mysteries of the unknown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more spine-tingling stories. Until next time, remember, the woods are never as empty as they seem.